And we are live. Welcome to the MLB Deeper Dive. It is Friday, July 8th. I'm Josh Engleman. I'm joined by Adam Scherer, and we are brought to you by Odds Shopper. 14 games on the docket, breaking it down again. We were here a couple hours ago. We're doing it all once again. I've had a lot of changes to everything, so I'm excited to actually dig back into this. A lot of line movement, changes in lineup, so I'm excited to break it all down. I hope you guys are as well. If you are, or if you're not, it doesn't really make much of a difference to me. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Adam, how you doing over there?
Doing pretty well. Working on getting a dummy crunch done, so I have an idea of what things would look like if the slate started right now, and it'll probably be totally different by the time it does actually start. But yeah, I'm with you. Things look a little bit different to me than they did this morning as well.
Yeah, I had a lot of major line changes. Two of the games didn't have lines when we first started our show earlier today, and I missed on one of them pretty aggressively. So figuring out how much of an impact that's going to have will be very important. I'm also pasting in some information into Fantasy Cruncher to run a crunch to make sure that I know, what I've got going on for this show. Some of these games we're going to zip through in less than 0 seconds because we have even more information now about how little and how not interesting some of these teams are. Some we probably have to dig in a little bit further. I'll say this much. I'm getting quite a bit less Giolito, not like in the I'm not going to get this guy range, but flattening out a bit more than I was expecting. So we'll cross that bridge in a little bit. I'm ready to just dive in though. Are you?
Yeah, I'm good.
Orioles and Angels, 4.6 run implied total for the O's, 4.1 for the Angels. Tyler Wells, Reed Detmers, neither guy really pulling any ownership. Has anything changed for you here? Do you anticipate, other than your random ass lineups, do you anticipate having any exposure to Wells and Detmers?
No, I'd be pretty surprised just because of the way that the pitcher pricing breaks down today. There's no lack of value. The mid-range is so strong, both in the guys that are getting a lot of ownership, the main three guys, but then also even there's a strong second tier in that range. So I don't anticipate needing to get too much of either of these guys.
Yeah, I don't get the sense that these are guys that I'm looking for. I got Detmers in 4% of lineups, which on a day like today is basically everybody. So not all that interested in the pitching side of this one. From a hitting side, let me make sure that I've got the most updated top stack tool as well. We don't want to have old stuff laying around. Yankees at the top, Atlanta. Let's paste this bad boy. Wow, that gap is getting bigger. Boom, got it. All right, aggregate ownership for the Orioles, 9th. Aggregate ownership for the Angels, 10th. We have the Orioles slightly ahead in top stack, but here's an idea of the difference between rank and actual numbers. The Orioles are 5th in top stack. The Angels are 10th. That feels like a really big gap. That gap is 0.4%. They might as well be the same team. They might as well have the same ownership. Which team do you like more, or do you even care?
Don't really care too much. I think they're pretty similar in that neither team is getting a ton of ownership. Baltimore projected for about 4% aggregate ownership. The Angels projected for about 4% aggregate ownership. Both pitchers are not particularly good, at least at this point in their careers. Detmers is a highly regarded prospect, but hasn't really put it together. 4.8 xFIP so far. So I think both teams look pretty similar in that regard. You don't have Adley Rutschman tonight for the Orioles, so that does not only weaken the lineup, but also weakens the stack a little bit because it's so valuable being able to get a good hitting catcher as part of your stack. So that makes them look a little bit weaker than they otherwise would, but you still have 5 good hitters at the top. Then you have 4 right-handed hitters is the complement that I'll use here against Detmers, hitting 6 through 9. So still a pretty decent spot, I think, for the Orioles. And then on the other side for the Angels, pretty much what we expected. You have all of Trout, Ohtani, Ward, Walsh. Those are the guys you really care about. VR gives you some stolen base upside at the top as well. Probably looks even a little bit better since Rutschman is out too.
Yeah, I don't have anybody to really write home here outside of Trout and Ohtani, and that shouldn't be all the most surprising things in the world. Ohtani, 6,500. They're starting to price Ohtani the hitter like they price Ohtani the pitcher.
Right.
I don't have anything else to follow up on. No cash options anywhere in this game, correct? Outside of if you get to Trout or Ohtani, have at it. But it doesn't even feel like those guys are those kind of plays today.
Yeah, I don't see anything that is like a for sure slam dunk cash play.
Yeah. Okay. Mets and Marlins. 4-run implied total for the Mets, 3.2 for the Marlins. Chris Bassett and Pablo Lopez. Lopez coming in 2% owned at 8,600. He's 9,700 on FanDuel and completely unowned. I have more than 2% interest in Pablo Lopez, but not anything significant. Chris Bassett in at 25% ownership. I think that's completely warranted. To me, he's the best, like whatever you want to call pay up options for pitching today. I agree with the ownership that is coming into Chris Bassett. Where do you land on Bassett, who's now in a quarter of lineups?
Yeah, I think that's fine. I mean, I had him optimal around 19% of the time. He's getting around 25% ownership. I don't have any issues there. We mentioned, talked about it this morning. Maybe he's a little bit limited after missing basically 2 weeks, but as Chat pointed out as well, he said he wasn't sick, so I don't even know if he's going to be limited or not. He's a good pitcher. He's been good this year. Miami is running out 7 right-handed hitters again, so that's beneficial for him. He struck out 27% of righties this year, 168 expected ISO, 291 expected WOBA. Bassett looks really good to me at 8,700.
We're on the same page. Do you have any interest in Pablo Lopez? Not a great strikeout matchup. Mets are solid at the very least.
He's just one of those guys where you can use him to offset some ownership if you need to within individual lineups. I do think he's going a little bit under-owned, but he's also a very low probability play. So it's not something that, even though he is going under-owned, that I expect to be jamming into lineups too much.
Alrighty. Then do we even talk about hitting here? The Mets, 26th in ownership. The Marlins, 26th in ownership. Both teams either 22nd or below in our top stack tool. The Marlins get to 12th in value, which I guess is something that you could write home about. Everybody that's listed in the probable lineups for the Mets and Marlins for me today, or just everybody that's listed in our ownership, does not have ownership. They're at the complete bottom. I don't really have much interest in anything here. The guy that showed up most for me is 3.5% Lindor. So if the most that you're getting out of any individual guy is 3.5%, I'm probably not getting there. Do you see anything different here? Are you getting to Mets or Marlins?
I don't think so. I just finished running a quick crunch, so I have, I can take a quick look and see, how things kind of look for me right now. I can feel pretty confident I'm not going to get to the Marlins. Yeah, I got 0 Miami in the crunch I just ran and 0 Mets. So
that'll do it.
Yeah.
These first 2 games were really rousing, just fun to break down. In hindsight, I would have started the show at 5:00. Or I would have just screwed around on the back end beforehand like we were.
Yeah, let me see. Now that I have it updated. Baltimore, I got to like 3%, so slightly over the field, which I'm perfectly fine with. Angels, I did get to about 9%, so got heavier on the Angels.
Okay.
They're one of my higher owned stacks right now.
All righty. Well, I think we're going to talk at least about one of these teams coming up, and that would be Red Sox and Yankees. 4.4 run implied total for the Sox, 5.5 for the Yankees. Connor Siebold and Nestor Cortez. Neither guy pulling any ownership. Cortez not pulling it on FanDuel either. I'm probably a little bit lighter on Cortez than I was earlier. I think this line went up a little bit, other than the fact that he's just simply unowned and a completely solid pitcher. 10,100 for Cortez is the most expensive salary on DraftKings today. I just don't see the need to go all the way up to 10-1. If I had a lineup with him, I wouldn't freak out, but it's just not that kind of day today.
Yeah, that's how I see it as well. I don't have him at all. I don't expect to get to him. It's not that, he's a bad pitcher or anything, but it's not a good matchup against Boston. He's expensive. He's got the fourth highest strikeout percentage on the slate, but all 4 other guys are less expensive than him. 2 of them, Ashby and Snell, considerably so. Giolito is just behind him and cheaper. Morton is just behind him and cheaper. So it's just really difficult for me to want to basically you're just paying up to be contrarian, but on a 14-game slate where it's really easy to be contrarian without doing anything too crazy.
Yeah. It just doesn't seem all that necessary. Again,
like
if I had him, I don't even notice.
Right.
Whatever at that point.
He would be like a really interesting play if this were like a 5-game slate, but you still had the Giolito, Ashby, Snell pricing tier, then he would be really interesting because like he still wouldn't pull ownership and he'd be a really easy high upside way to differentiate. But here it's just like 80% of the teams on the slate, if you stack them, you're just getting a bunch of like 4% owned guys. So what's the point of Cortez?
We're on the same page here. We definitely don't need to talk about Connor Siebold. So let's talk about the Yankees. Number one in top stack, number one in ownership. They're not even all that expensive. Aaron Judge at 6,300 is your most expensive bat. DJ LeMahieu is second at 4,500. Lots of ownership coming in to everybody, which to me feels like pretty much fully warranted. I don't have any disagreements with their ownership or their position in the top stack tool. That's for sure.
No, me neither. They're the highest exposed stack that I got to right now as well. So that is interesting to me. Like out of the popular teams, they're the one that I'm not getting away from, at least the way it looks right now. Not going crazy over the field or anything, but still just getting to them because they do offer value. They offer a lot of upside. They're some of the best plays, on the slate. So certainly happy to get to Yankees.
Yeah, you and me both. Will I get to 188 total percent or whatever the hell the aggregate is for these guys? Probably not. 19% aggregate exposure. Like even if I get to 10 or 11, I'm happy, and I'm probably offsetting some of that with other teams that aren't pulling a ton of ownership today. So I won't get to the public for the Yankees, but clearly individual bats look great. Judge in cash, Donaldson in cash, Torres in cash. There are a lot of cash options coming out of New York.
Yeah, for sure. I still wouldn't say any of them are like for sure in lineups, only because Torres, you also have Marte, Donaldson, you also have Jose Ramirez, Judge, you also have Ronald Acuna and Trout and Ohtani. So not like 100% sure that I have any of them, but certainly possible. And I think the same can be said for Carpenter at 3,700 as well.
Not that this is the be all end all, but it's usually pretty directionally accurate. Judge at 25%, Acuna at 25%. Everybody else in the like expensive hitter bucket isn't getting past like 2 or 3% ownership. Makes me think you see Judge and Acuna. I don't think that's going to be like the craziest thing in the world. Just because if you're going Giolito, Snell, you're going to have that money. We detailed that a little bit earlier, that you could do it with a crap stack and still get there. Yeah. So actually, those would be the two guys that I would expect if you saw it. But if it's one of the two, good luck figuring out if it's Judge or it's a coin flip.
Right. That's kind of what I was getting at. I can get some idea right now.
Yeah.
So like I would have my top projected, actually they're tied. One has Acuna and Judge.
Okay.
Both have Jose Ramirez. One has Torres.
Okay. Makes sense. Red Sox side of this one. So Cortez is getting no ownership. Nor are the Red Sox. 16th in aggregate ownership. 13th in top stack, though. Are they getting like a little bit underrepresented? It just so happens that today probably it doesn't matter.
I think so, and I'm actually getting to them, which I don't.
Oh, interesting. Well, yeah, hit me with it then.
Yeah, I mean, I don't love it, but I'm getting to Boston quite a bit, at least right now. They're not getting much ownership. They're a good offense. I realize Nestor Cortez is good as well, but you're just getting virtually no ownership coming into this Red Sox team. And one thing that does stand out about the slate, and you kind of mentioned it as well, with a lot of teams just kind of lumped together in the top stacks tool, there's actually pretty solid pitching tonight across the board. Like even guys that you're not looking to roster from a DFS standpoint, there's not a lot of like, oh wow, there's no way this guy doesn't get lit up type guys out there. There's just a lot of like average pitchers, and so it makes me more willing to take my chances in a relatively difficult matchup because the alternative isn't that much better in most cases. So right now I am getting the Boston. It's not that I think it comes through a lot. I don't feel great about it, but they're getting virtually no ownership. They have a good team. They have a good lineup. So I do like the Red Sox in tournaments a bit.
Yeah, I'm anticipating being over on the Red Sox. I've got every single bat in their lineup came in either slightly ahead of their current ownership or 4 to 5% ahead, which is a pretty big gap for me. So I anticipate getting a lot of single bats here. And in particular, even lefty, Devers is 2.6% owned. I think that Devers is going to end up being one of my higher owned individual hitters today. And I just won't ever mind that I'm taking a bit of a stand on Devers on a 2.5% day.
Yeah, never a bad place to be. I'm uploading I'm uploading what my 150 lineups would be right now, so I can see how much of Boston I'm actually getting to.
Nice.
I'm with you on Devers, like 15%, second highest owned third baseman right now. JD around 10%.
Yeah.
Story around 10%. Yeah, it kind of just looks like I'm around 10% on a lot of the Boston guys and then playing a little bit more of Devers.
Makes a ton of sense to me, that's for sure. It's a shame Cortez isn't pulling a little bit of ownership.
Yeah, that would be nice.
No cash options for sure on the Red Sox side. Anything else you want to touch on here, Boston or New York?
Nope.
All righty. Schedule for the rest of the day is as follows. MLB Live Before Lock is coming up next at 6 p.m. Eastern. 57 minutes, basically. They will come on this stream. You don't have to go anywhere. You just stay here, and you get an hour of additional coverage after Adam and I finish that off. But only if you guys hit the like button, because we're at 79, and there are 500 of you in here. And so that's just not the correct ratio. Up over 100 right now. Hit that thumbs up. Well-deserved for us, in my opinion. Free content for today. MLB top stacks. If you're watching this show, that's going to be very interesting. And we're certainly going to talk about the top stacks today. MMA fighter rankings are also free. So if you're playing tomorrow's UFC card, you can check out those rankings. And then we move it on to game number 4. Reigning defending undisputed champions of baseball. The Atlanta Braves, 5.6 run implied total. Nats, 3.6. Charlie Morton and Eric Fede, no one rostering Fede, but Morton, 10% owned at 9,200. And I don't know, that seems about right. Not a great strikeout matchup here for Morton. That's just sort of, at his price tag, that's just sort of the amount you're going to get of him.
Yeah, pretty much. Like you said, it's not a great strikeout matchup. It's not a bad matchup in terms of actual production. Washington's not a particularly good offense, but they are difficult to strike out. Morton is reasonably priced at 9,200. He does have about a 27% strikeout percentage this year. So, he's in line with guys like Giolito and Snell. It's just that he's like $1,300, $1,400 more expensive. I got like 8% in the crunch I just ran, which tells me that give or take, I'll probably just be around the field on him.
Yep. Okay. We're on the same page there. I don't know. Like, he's just a good enough pitcher that he doesn't have to pay the extra $900 and he's just going to like sneak into stuff. If you want to pivot off of Bassett, go for it. I don't have anything else to say there. Let's talk Braves. If you don't like the Yankees tonight, maybe you like the Braves. Number 2 in our top stack tool, 3rd in aggregate ownership. Acuna, as we mentioned already, up in the 20s in ownership. Talk to me just in general. Where do you see the Braves in relationship to the Yankees? Let's start there.
So, as far as total exposure goes, I think I got quite a bit less. I got quite a bit less of Atlanta. Individually, still got a lot of Acuna right now, but that's kind of about it. And it's not a knock on other guys like Swanson or Riley or whoever, but I got a little bit of Matt Olson. I got a good amount of Acuna, but other than that, it seems like right now, at least, I'm kind of getting away from the Braves, still getting to the Yankees. I don't feel strongly that the Yankees are better than the Braves. I think part of it is just the value component. But right now, at least, it kind of just looks like of the popular teams, the Yankees are the only one that I'm getting close to the field on.
Sean V with the heroic take that the Braves are going to bust. Amazing that you're able to get on the side of what is like an 85% likelihood.
Probably,
whatever.
Yeah, so it's probably even higher than that.
Whatever you got to do there. I mean, 8% to be top stack. Bust is probably like, 4th or worst.
Yeah.
Or worse, rather. Outside of Acuna, do you see any other cash options here for the Braves, whether that's like $3,800 Contreras or Matt Olson at $4,300?
Yeah, I think Olson and Contreras are both in play as well. Swanson too, really. I think that Acuna is... Actually, Matt Olson was the one, if I just crunched like my top 25 lineups, Olson shows up the most from Atlanta, followed by Acuna. So I'd expect to have both of those guys most likely, and then possibly have Contreras and or Swanson.
Okay. Some cash options on the table. What about for the Nats? Is there anything viable here? 19th in ownership, 22nd in top stack tool.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see much there. Even if it's kind of difficult to get to Morton on this slate, he's still a good pitcher. The Nats don't have a ton that you're going to want to get to. One, It's kind of the Juan Soto, Josh Bell, Nelson Cruz pieces that always look pretty good. Luis Garcia as an inexpensive shortstop at 3,400 makes some sense, but I don't anticipate getting too much of Washington.
Corey, Sean V is not taking a stand with that take. He's doing the exact opposite. It's really, really, everybody should be able to be like, yo, that team's going to bust tonight. You're going to have a hell of a, like, if you just want to say you want to post your busts, you will get a lot of traction for that because you'll be right a lot.
Right.
That's also the problem. That's basically like the inverse problem of DFS. People try to be right too frequently. And that's not going to get you anywhere. The opposite of this question is true. You are not taking a stand. Them being popular does not have anything to do with them busting.
They're also, and like, it's kind of the same thing, just like they have one of the highest top stack percentages, but they're still a massive favorite to fail. They're popular and they're not being played by like 85% of the field.
Right. That's not based on our data. 92% of the time, they're not the highest scoring stack. Let's just say you got to be in the top 4 to be like worth a shit. But 80% of the time, they're not one of those teams. Something in that neighborhood. That's not a stand. It's the opposite that's a stand. You want to tell me that the Nats are the top stack today? Now you're hanging your head out there and trying to be right. Like, it's not going to be likely, but that's the stand. Got to flip the brain, guys. Corey, I know. I'm aware. Juan Soto and nothing else, right? Josh Bell.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much Luis Garcia for value if you need it, but don't see much I like.
All right. To the Rangers and Twins. 3.7 run implied total for the Rangers. 3.9 for the Twins. John Gray and Sonny Gray in the Battle of the Grays. Loser has to drop their name for the rest of the season, from what I heard. 10% owned John Gray, 8K on DK. 2% owned Sonny Gray, 9,700 on DK. I mean, like, I prefer Sonny Gray. I don't get the sense I get to much of these guys just in general. Where do you land on the Grays?
I have 10% John Gray and 3% Sonny Gray.
Interesting. Yeah.
I prefer John Gray just because he is $1,700 less expensive. He's a good pitcher. You and I kind of disagreed on him a bit this morning, but 26% strikeout percentage, 3.4 xFIP. You take an 8K John Gray, and he's going to be really popular on a lot of slates. It's just that he's got a relatively difficult matchup here against Minnesota, and he's not quite as good a strikeout pitcher as guys priced around him on this particular slate. But still, I think just too cheap of a price tag for the talent level John Gray gives you. Sonny Gray, on the other hand, better pitcher probably this year, about a 25% strikeout percentage, 3.48 xFIP, so very similar, but $1,700 more. It's just difficult to want to pay that price tag a lot.
Where do you have John Gray projected?
Like fantasy points?
Yes.
16 and a half.
What do you have Sonny Gray at?
15 and a half.
Damn. That'll do it. Obviously, based on my reactions, I have a slightly lower projection on John Gray.
Yeah.
I've got Sonny by 1.3 fantasy points. I don't get the sense that I'm going to get a lot of either one of these guys. They showed up in basically similar amounts of lineups just because John Gray's got a $1,700 deficit, so that'll help. But yeah, I don't know. I'm surprised these guys aren't popping a little more. I just think that the problem for me is that, one, I'm obviously a little lighter on Gray from a projection standpoint, and two, anytime that John Gray has the opportunity to like enter the optimal, it just ends up being Snell or Giolito or Aaron Ashby, and like he just gets squeezed out by the same sort of price range, but just better options. I think that's
exactly. It just kind of ends up for me. It just kind of ends up being like mostly it's just going to be if I'm going to the Yankees, maybe I play some John Gray instead of one of those guys. If I'm going to the Braves, same kind of thing.
I found it really interesting that you were like Sonny Gray is maybe the better pitcher. You might be like the biggest Sonny Gray guy that I know. So I don't.
Well, I think he's the better
blaspheming
pitcher,
him.
This year he's been very comparable. Like, but he's also had a really weird year injury-wise. I do think he's the better pitcher.
It would be really awesome if they played for their last names and like the loser had to just take it off the back of their jersey for the rest of the season.
I'd really be sweating this game if this were a few years ago. Now that we have Sonny Gray up to 9,700, and it's like, oh, if he has a bad start, he's going to go down.
Yeah, I know. You ultimately won that bet, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I couldn't remember if it snuck in or not, or he crossed that threshold like September 4th or something.
Yeah, I think I won it.
God, that's crazy that you were just like making bets and you have no concept of whether or not you paid that out. Like life is weird like that. It's just gone one way or the other. All right, let's talk bats. And I think we're done. The Twins are 26th in ownership, as are the Rangers. The Rangers are 24th in our top stack tool. The Twins actually climb a bit here. They are 14th in our top stack tool. I don't really see a huge difference between these two teams. The Twins are definitely the better option, but I'm not rostering either one of them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like around the field on Minnesota. I have like 2% aggregate ownership. That's fine. They're a good offense, but I'm not really looking to go out of my way against John Gray. Same can be said for going up against Sonny Gray. The highest owned hitter right now that I have from this game is buried somewhere. I can't even find them. I don't know. Whoever it is like sub 5%.
Thrilling stuff there. The highest owned guy I have here is I don't know who.
I thought maybe Buxton or somebody at least would be.
Do you have a team filter? Oh, you're just in FC.
Yeah, I'm in FC. Buxton 8% is I think my highest owned guy on Minnesota right now.
Yeah, there's no quick way to get there. No surprises there that it's Buxton though. He is the guy that showed up the most for me, so that should be the guy that you do get to. I got nothing else here. This game's mostly a stay away outside of random pitching.
Agreed.
Royals and Guardians. 4.5 run implied total for the Royals, 4.1 for the Guardians. Brady Singer and Aaron Savale. This might be the worst pitching matchup on the slate. This might be the lowest combination of ownership. Do you get to Singer or Savale?
No, I don't get to either pitcher. I don't. I got one lineup with Savale and 4 with Brady Singer.
Lovely stuff there. Hitting, on the other hand, a little bit different, kind of weird to talk about. So the Guardians are 7th in aggregate exposure. 12% of that goes to Jose Ramirez, 7 to Steven Kwan, and then basically none to everybody else. The Royals are slightly more owned, 5th in aggregate exposure, but they're more flat at the top. Merrifield, Benintendi, Witt, Melendez, all basically the same, tapers off like a normal lineup. Which side of this do you like more?
I'm getting a little bit more Kansas City, but also looks like I'll just be getting more than the field on both sides. Have about 8% aggregate ownership going to KC right now, 6% to Cleveland. We have KC projected for about 4.5% aggregate ownership, Cleveland at a little over 5%. Jose Ramirez obviously driving it for me on the Cleveland side. He's my highest owned third baseman right now. I expect that to be the case. Not getting a lot elsewhere of Cleveland though, which makes me think that it's mostly like Jose Ramirez one-off type stuff. For KC, I'm getting more kind of across the board. Like right now, MJ Melendez is my highest owned catcher. Witt's my highest owned shortstop. Getting around 10% on Benintendi. Getting around like 6 or 7% on Pasquantino. So I think that Kansas City has more players that I get a lot of. I think Cleveland, I probably mostly am just getting Ramirez.
Okay, that makes sense. I don't really know what to make of this game. Like, I'm a little surprised that the Royals and like both of these teams are pulling as much ownership as they are, but like in a weird way, they're not pulling anything at all. It's a tough balance here. Like the Royals don't feel like the 5th most owned team when you just look at the individual ownerships for each guy.
Right.
When the highest number is 8.8, like 5th means nothing to me any longer.
Right. I mean, it's kind of just with it being a 14-game slate. Like, there's 3 teams or 4 teams maybe that are getting ownership that you actually have to concern yourself with. Everything else is just fine. Like, it doesn't matter that much.
Is there anything that we should like treat differently on days like that, where ownership basically becomes a complete non-issue outside of pitching?
I don't really think so. I mean, And at least for me, I think that I guess I don't have to treat it differently because the way that I do stuff, it just automatically is going to account for it.
Sure.
Like when you look at the differences between where players should be owned and where they are owned, that's just kind of going to come out on its own naturally. So I don't really have to do anything differently. If just from like an overall standpoint, though, I do think that ownership just is less important on bigger slates.
I guess where I'm going with it is more of a pitching question. And I sort of know where we stand, but on a day like today where the clear decision points or like the clear major chalk that's happening today is 40% Snell and 40% Giolito. 4 of the arms on this slate are getting 130% of the aggregate exposure. So like basically like 70% of all pitcher ownership is going to one of 4 guys. Should we just be different there today and play the absolute best bats that we can find? Like, are we taking the stability of pitching too far?
I don't really think so because they're just so mispriced. It's not that, they just project better and, they're slightly underpriced. The pricing is just completely wrong. In the aggregate, I have like 130% ownership going to them right now. So I'm not getting quite as much as the field, I guess, but more or less getting around the field on those guys. And I talked about it in my tournament plays video this afternoon, because it felt ridiculous for DraftKings, my top 3 tournament pitchers, to be Snell, Giolito, and Ashby. But it was just like, I don't know what else you're supposed to do, really. It's not like these guys are anywhere remotely close to being the correct price. And then on top of that, you do have a slate where outside of a couple of teams, hitter ownership is just non-existent across the board. So it still makes it pretty easy to just be like, yeah, okay, I'm mostly going to use these pitchers. And then I just will take my chances that like Atlanta isn't the highest scoring team.
Makes sense. I don't have anything to add. I just like, as I was looking at it and realizing what a chalk-ish stack looks like today, I just started wondering like, oh, maybe we're just looking at this wrong and should flip that sort of pitcher exposure a little bit and just get to more of the Yankees, more of the Braves. I'm puzzled by it.
I mean, typically,
I guess it is just like a pricing thing.
I would typically much rather be on popular pitching than popular hitting.
So would I, or at least that's been my prevailing wisdom up until this point. This just feels so aggressive to have 4 of the 28 pitchers today just soaking up so much that the 5th most owned stack is 6% aggregate, 1/4 of the lowest of those pitchers. It's interesting to me. I don't really know what to make of it all, but I'm intrigued by it. That's all I got. No cash. Jose Ramirez, and that's probably it here from a cash perspective.
Yeah, if you get to Ramirez, I think that's fine. He's in every top projected lineup I built.
There you go. That'll probably do it, I guess. I don't have anything else here. So let's go to game number 7, Brewers and Pirates. 4.6 run implied total for the Brewers, 3.3 for the Pirates. Aaron Ashby, JT Brubaker. Ashby 26% owned right now. Brubaker not owned at all. Just add another guy to the list of highly owned pitchers at price tags that don't make a ton of sense.
Yeah, the only kind of negative, I guess, or concern on Ashby is that he did miss a couple of weeks, came back through 62 pitches last start, ran into some trouble, went 3 2/3 against the same Pirates team. The concern isn't that he struggled against the Pirates. The concern is I don't know exactly how long his leash will be here, given that he did throw 62 pitches last start. Does he only get to around 80 and they say, okay, cool, you got 5 innings, get out. At 7,400, though, I don't care all that much. Obviously it matters, especially when you do have other pitchers around him that are very good. But that's kind of the only concern I have. He is a very good strikeout pitcher. 28.1% strikeout percentage is the highest on the slate. 2.99 xFIP. I got around 26%. You just said we haven't projected at about 26%. Sounds good to me.
I'm with you. I do like the mild pivot off of Ashby to Skubal, although maybe it doesn't have to come from Ashby. Anybody in this range to Skubal is kind of fine for me. We'll get to Skubal in the next game. But yeah, Ashby looks great. He 74. There's not a lot of downside at 7,400 against the Pirates. That's right. For sure.
Yeah, anything the biggest risk is obviously that Ashby just gets bombed. But assuming that he handles his business against the Pirates, the biggest risk is just that he does get pulled after 5 innings and you happen to get a 30-point game from Giolito and a 30-point game from Snell, which is clearly on the table for both of those guys. And, your 18 from Ashby doesn't work. But other than that, just pretty clearly a good spot to get to.
Brubaker?
He's in 1 of 150 right now.
There it is. Just loading up on the talent there. Let's talk hitting. Brubaker not getting any ownership makes it a little bit easier to get to the Brewers. The Brewers are 8th in aggregate ownership, 12th in our top stack tool. Is there anything here for you for the Brewers? Because the 12th for the top stack tool seems about right. They're just unappealing.
Yeah, I mean, I had mentioned them in, I think, my DraftKings tournament video that they looked like they were going a little bit under-owned, but I still had trouble getting to them. They're not really cheap anymore. They do have power, and Brubaker does struggle, particularly with left-handed power, a 196 actual ISO, 201 expected ISO. But Yelich is up to 5,400. Tellez is up to 5,100. It's just not great pricing. You only really have 2 left-handed power bats, Colton Wong, Narvaez, Peterson. They're all left-handed as well, but certainly not guys that you're looking to for home runs quite as much. So just kind of ended up being a team that I didn't really get to, even though I do think that there is some upside here.
Man, the Portland Trail Blazers are stupid as shit. You'd think they're run by the damn Wizards people. Why give Dame that contract? Why? I wouldn't want to pay him $60 million right now, let alone in 2027 or whatever the hell year that's going to be.
I thought it was a 2-year.
It's Dame. Deal. It's a 2-year extension.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he opts into like 25, 26 to tack 2 more years onto this bad boy.
Got it.
They didn't even have to do this.
Literally,
the new contract will begin with the 25-26 season.
Literally just talked about Tellez, and Candace Reynolds says, "What about Tellez? That's a big miss, boys."
Did you hear that?
Yeah, well, what was that?
Thunder and lightning. I assume thunder in that case.
Oh, wow.
Who knows?
Yeah, I thought you blew into your microphone.
I thought you
I felt like I did. I shouldn't make that joke, but we had someone die from a lightning strike like a week ago.
Oh, wow.
And if you happen to be a fan of the show One Tree Hill and remember the character Bevan, it's her real life husband. Sad. He's out at the beach.
I never saw the show.
Got popped. But
yeah, we had a tornado touchdown in my hometown like a couple days ago.
That scared the shit out of me, man. That was loud. Anyway, that's God being shocked at this Blazers contract. It's smiting all of us. What a terrible deal. Pirates bats, 22nd in ownership, 26th in top stack.
No thanks.
Yeah, I think I'm with you there. Anything else in this game?
Nope.
Yeah, guys are saying my screen blinked. Yeah, I bet power stopped for a brief second because I felt like my heart did too. Oh, we got a clip.
Fell
Great.
in crawling through your bedroom window.
Yeah, I would. Oh my God, I'd be thrilled.
I actually missed. So we had nasty thunderstorms apparently in Baltimore on like Saturday, but I was at my mom's. But so I saw like pictures on Twitter of like crazy lightning strikes and stuff. But that would have been the first. I still haven't seen like a good storm since I moved into my new place, and I'm not entirely sure if it's gonna scare me into like hiding in my bedroom away from the windows or if I'm gonna enjoy it. But
yeah, a little bit of both probably.
Yeah.
If Sean V was trying to climb in through and fell in through the ceiling, I would tear him apart limb from limb in the most enjoyable way possible. To know that I just got free, I can do whatever I want. Free reign, trespasser, rip you apart. This is the South, man. They're gonna be on my side, I promise. Oh, it's gonna be great. Do it, please do it. Chimney doesn't work. You should be able to come straight down it, like Santa. I'll give you a present. Stock to the kisser. Odd Shopper, though, presenting sponsor of this show. God, this is such an easy one for you guys. You're just missing, if you're not using it and you have heard about it, you're missing out on arguably the best tool that exists, like the Stokastic ecosystem. Whether you're a sports bettor and you're looking to shop around for lines, this is the perfect way to do that. They're a click away. Right away. That's going to help you out tremendously. Just simply getting the best line that you can put a bet in on is going to save you money in the long run. Now, if you're interested in the bets that we're showing here, I'm going to log in quickly to OddsShopper. I'll give you guys an example or two. Again, this is free, completely free for you. All you have to do is just sign up. Won't cost you a cent. Our player props pages, this is the ticket right here. So like, for example, we show the we show the expected ROI, expected win rate projections on all of these props. So like Austin Hayes to hit a home run today is our biggest expected ROI bet. Plus 700 is sitting out there right now. And we're telling you, if you bet that one, that's going to be your best expectation. Jared Walsh for a homer, Ryan Mountcastle for a homer. These are all there as just props. Plenty of other props as well that you could take a look at. But OddsShopper is giving you all of this. It's costing you $0. Zilch, nada, zip. It's like the balance of Sean V's DraftKings account. So if you guys are interested in OddsShopper, please just go to oddshopper.com and check it out. 7 more games to go, man. Next one up, White Sox and Tigers. 4.6 run implied total for the White Sox, 3.6 for the Tigers. Lucas Giolito and Tariq Skubal going in this one. Giolito, 42% owned. Skubal, not owned. Let's start with Giolito now. Is he the best option on the slate? Where do you see him in relationship to Snell, or is it just simply he's just really, really good today because it's the Tigers?
Yeah, he's really, really good today because he's really good. He's facing the Tigers. 27.3% strikeout percentage, 3.69 xFIP. Right now, I have him just behind Snell in terms of both projection and how much I have, but basically splitting hairs there. I think him and Snell are the top 2 pitchers on the slate. I don't think anybody really disagrees with that. If you want to throw in Ashby, that's fine. But again, I think that the pitch count concerns are enough to at least put him behind those other 2 guys. So they look really good. I expect to get around the field on Giolito. No issues with that.
Are you getting Snell and Giolito in those cash lineups?
I would expect to, yeah. Let me double check. Yep, I crunched my top 25 projected teams. They are all Snell, Giolito.
There it is. It's pretty easy. We got to have the conversation for Skubal. $7,600, $200 cheaper than Giolito. Unowned. I think it's a good strikeout matchup against the White Sox. I think Skubal's a good pitcher. What am I missing here? Why unowned?
I think just because there's so many other options, and I don't think the matchup with the White Sox is that appealing. They have plenty of right-handed power. He does have a 26% strikeout percentage against righties, but the thing for me, like even looking at my exposures, because I only got to like 2 or 3% of Skubal, obviously I'm getting to those main guys, Snell, Giolito, Ashby, getting the Bassett, but then I'm getting more Zach Gallen. I'm getting more John Gray. Jose Urquidy's the guy that I appear to be using as the pivot in that price range away from, that's not really getting ownership. He has the matchup against Oakland, which is nice. So I think that there is there's a case to be made for getting to Skubal since he's not getting ownership. But it's just that there's so many guys ahead of him, I think.
It's such a tricky spot. To me, he looks like he's what I was sort of alluding to, I guess, when I asked that question about pitcher exposure. To me, he's the first guy that I would want to get to in the largest field GPPs on DK today as a way to get different from one of that Snell, Giolito, Ashby trio.
I mean, I have him as my 16th highest projected pitcher, or tied for 15th.
That's craziness.
Tied for 15th.
That's wild to me. Although I'm not too far ahead of you, but when I ran my crunch, he showed up as frequently as Ashby. Because I think, I don't know, it ultimately comes down to some sort of increased standard deviation on the projection. But even still, I'm really surprised to not see Skubal be 10%.
Yeah, I mean, I had him show up in the optimal 5%.
So confused by that statement. Not yours, chat. Man. I'm getting to Skubal today. I'm just putting that out there into the world. Skubal is to me, he's the most interesting GPP pitcher of the day.
How much of a difference do you have between Skubal and Brady Singer's projection?
1.6 fantasy points.
Okay, I have them the same.
Okay. Wow.
So Madden Dispute said he can be ranked 16th best, but he's 1 or 2 points off a lot of pitchers. That's true. but I have him like 7 points off of Giolito and Snell and like 6 off of Ashby. So that's kind of the issue. Like if I don't know, if Urquidy and John Gray and Adam Wainwright were the guys getting all of the ownership, I would be pivoting to a hell of a lot of Scooble because they project similarly and there shouldn't be a big ownership gap there. But it's not similar projections, him versus Giolito, Snell, Ashby.
Let's hit on my filler arcs super chat. Speaking of new places, Adman, I assume that's supposed to be Adam. Why the background as is, considering the melanin challenge? Thanks for wearing all black.
Because there's doors behind me, so I can't. Well, for one, I haven't even bothered to finish unpacking or hang anything up. But for two, I used to have a blank wall behind me. Now I have doors. I care more about being able to look in front of me and see water than what my backdrop looks like.
Random says, never miss Josh basketball take incompetence. So I assume my take of incompetence is that the Dame 2-year, $120 million extension 4 years from now is somehow a good contract. You will not find that take anywhere in media unless it's in a Portland newspaper. Everyone is going to absolutely destroy this. So I don't really know what else we could possibly say here. It's one of the worst front office decisions that you could possibly make. Paying a non-star $60 million 6 years from now. If you don't understand why that's a dog shit decision, you probably like the Bradley Beal deal too.
Did you see Ted Leonsis' reasoning on why they gave Bradley Beal the no trade clause?
Because they don't want to trade Bradley Beal and he doesn't want to be traded.
And it shows a commitment to Bradley Beal that's going to help them get free agents.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah.
If that were the case, Kevin Durant would be playing for the Wizards right now.
Right. I'm sure that the fact that nobody has been coming to DC as a free agent ever is going to change because they took care of Bradley Beal.
Yeah, that's insanity. And Carlos, I have to tell Adam that his exposures are crazy from time to time. Otherwise, this show sucks. And all we do is just repeat the same shit over and over again. It's not going to get us anywhere. I'm not saying that Tariq Skubal should be the most owned pitcher on the slate, but if we don't have some sort of talking point, this is what are we doing?
And to be clear, like I agree. To be clear, I agree with you that Skubal's going on their own. It's just a matter of like for me right now, I'm getting Jose Urquidy basically pushed up a little bit as my like low owned pivot as opposed to Skubal. There's no question about Skubal's strikeout upside though.
Yeah, like if you just look at the data for pitching, you and I are probably going to come to the same conclusion there that like 0.7% Tariq Skubal is not the correct amount of ownership for what's bracketing him. What you get in practice is a very different discussion point.
Right.
We got to talk White Sox bats here, which we've been on a bit of a delay, but we had time to kill. And honestly, I was trying to kill that time. We're going to kill that time in 1 second. Teddy Wayman wants to know if I like the Gobert trade. For the Jazz, yes. For the Jazz, quite a bit. For the Wolves, I mean, I get why you do it if you're Minnesota. You're dog shit for 30 years. You never win anything. Who gives a shit if you punt the future? Worst case scenario, this doesn't work and they move the team from Minnesota to Seattle or Vegas or something. Best case scenario, they win a playoff series, which becomes the best team that Minnesota's ever had. White Sox are 6th in ownership, 10th in top stack. They look solid to me. They should get a little bit more leverage, but Skubal's not getting any ownership.
Yeah, the White Sox, I do like the upside that they offer. They're kind of just another, middle of the road stack, I think. I am getting around the field on them. You do have a lot of right-handed power here, but also a tough matchup against Skubal.
Yeah. The guys that are getting ownership, the Anderson, Pollock, Lou Bob, Abreu guys are like, 7-ish%. That all
kind of
fine.
a shitty lineup too. Who are they missing? So no Moncada. Is that it?
You're asking the wrong guy. I just paste these things in.
Engle's hitting 6th. So the 6, 7, 8, 9 is Engel, Zavala, Garcia, Harrison. I know Moncada's missing. I feel like there's one other guy missing, but maybe not.
Frank Thomas.
That's it.
They went to Abreu
Oh,
instead of Paul.
Vaughn. Yeah. So
no
Vaughn
Paul
again.
Konerko.
No Vaughn again, and then no Moncada.
Okay. I thought it was Konerko.
Albert Bell.
Joey Bell. Tigers bats, 11th in ownership, 20th in top stack. Trying to find the number one value team today. They were your boys yesterday.
Wait, what?
Do you want to go to the Tigers?
Okay, well, that's what I thought you asked, and then I was confused what you were talking about with me playing the Tigers.
They're the number one value stack today.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I'm good with not going there. I mean, Riley Green is still cheap, but I don't really feel the need to go to the worst offense against Giolito.
Sean V says Scooble's an awful play. I've never been more I might just lock button Scooble just for because it'll be worth it. To say that he's an awful play is an awful take. Cardinals and Phillies. If I type the word Cardinals incorrectly. 3.7 run implied total for the Cards, 4 for the Phils. Adam Wainwright and Zach Wheeler. No ownership going to Wainwright at 8,400, unowned on FanDuel as well. Wheeler, 10% owned at 10K. I continue to not totally understand the Zach Wheeler ownership. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I don't mind it, but I don't see him all that differently than Cortez, Sonny Gray, Tyler Anderson, Charlie Morton. What's the differentiator here, or is there not one?
Yeah, it's the same thing for me. Zach Wheeler's a good pitcher. If you get to him, it's not like you're doing anything wrong, I guess. But I just have trouble, A, wanting to even get to that price range, and B, why am I picking the 10% guy if I do it instead of one of the ones not getting any ownership? If I'm going to pay up for basically no reason, then at least take one of the lower owned guys. So, I mean, right now I'm not getting to much Wheeler at all. He's in 2 lineups. It's not because I think he's bad. It's just that I get much better lineups not going up to that price tier. And then the fact that other people are going to him, it's a tough matchup. I think he's just not something I'm really going to get to.
Yeah, I have Tyler Anderson projected ahead of Wheeler today. I'll just flip-flop those guys. I'm that whole top section. I just don't. I can't take a stand on it. I'm guessing when everything comes out that all of those guys just look pretty similar in ownership.
Yeah, I mean, I have Wheeler as the top projected guy in that price range, but I still have him behind Giolito, Snell, Bassett, Ashby, and Gallen.
Yeah, it's just difficult. Very difficult. Anything for Wainwright down in the 8,400 seems basically impossible.
Yeah, I don't have him either. Not a great strikeout pitcher. He's not a bad pitcher. He's good at preventing runs. He'd be playable on a lot of slates, I think. But here it's more so just he's behind Giolito, Snell, Bassett, Ashby, Gallen, Morton, Gray, Urquidy, Anderson, other Gray, Lopez, Kirby are all guys that I have projected ahead of him, and most of them are in the same price range or cheaper.
Yeah, he's my 13th best projected guy. Could just as easily be 12th. He's a 10th of a point ahead of Pablo Lopez. It's not for me. And because of this pitching, kind of makes this game not all that interesting from a bats perspective. I like some of this Philly lineup. They're 13th in ownership, 16th in top stack. Cardinals are unowned. Are you getting to either offense?
I am getting to some Phillies offense. It's not that, again, I don't think Wainwright is bad, but you're just not.
By the way, 14 minutes ago, we got ownership if you need it.
Yeah, I just refreshed it. Thanks. Because I wanted to check actually the pitching on FanDuel. Because gotcha. I did include Wheeler in my tournament plays video there. You're getting 24% ownership there. The ownership's going to the same pitchers on FanDuel, just obviously not quite as aggressively since you only roster one. But it's the same kind of thing. Zach Wheeler is getting 5% ownership there. He's probably underowned, but also your lineups just aren't going to project nearly as well when you consider the drops that you're going to make in hitters probably. So it's kind of similar. Somebody has actually, as I was looking, said, is this DK or FD exclusive regarding the pitchers? We've been talking about it in terms of DraftKings since you roster 2, but it's kind of the same thing on FanDuel today where those 3 pitchers are all cheap and still project as the best options.
I do want to hit on this just because I'm curious what your answer is, but I think there's only one answer. What's the nicest baseball swing of all time?
Griffey.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know. I can't imagine picking somebody else.
Sheffield being in there is wild. He had such a violent swing. That's the opposite of.
It's entertaining.
Yeah. Like, and he was good, obviously, but like,
Yeah.
Griffey was just effortless.
Yeah. Everybody wanted to do it. Every single kid that ever picked up a bat mocked that swing. The only thing that sucked was that he was a lefty, and it always bothered me that like my swing didn't look like Griffey's.
Right.
But yeah, it's putting on a backwards Mariners hat in a summer and playing stickball somewhere was just like a thing. I mean, that was the peak of my youth. You know, the mid to early, like I'm 9, 10, 11, 12 is 93 to 96. This is like primary Griffey time. I still picture vividly him breaking his wrist in the wall and where I watched that on SportsCenter.
I don't remember that.
Oh God.
I might have been too young.
Sitting at my buddy Luke's table, waiting for him to come downstairs. And I look up at the TV. I can still picture the like candy cabinet next to it. And then wrist straight into the wall.
Yeah, I was probably a little young. I just remember, I basically just remember lower body injuries for him.
Yeah, I mean, once he got to Cincy, it was bad. Let's see, what was the date? All right, this is from. All right, this article got written May 27th, 1995. Broke his left wrist Friday, so we wrote that Saturday. So May 26th, 1995.
Okay,
so I would have been
5.
I was in 4th grade. Cardinals bats, just quick. I don't get the sense.
No.
All right. Athletics and Astros. 3.2 run implied total for the A's, 4.2 for the Stros. Paul Blackburn and Jose Urquidy. No ownership going to Blackburn, but you mentioned you were getting to a little bit Urquidy. He is 8% owned. Are you coming in north of that?
Yeah, I have like 13% right now. Wouldn't be surprised if that comes down a little and maybe, it just turns into a little bit more of any other guy in that price range. But Urquidy just getting 8% ownership, I think that's a little bit low given that it is a good matchup against Oakland. And he's not a great strikeout pitcher, but pretty decent pitcher overall. So given the matchup, I just like using him to save some ownership.
We had a super chat from George/Jorge. Excuse me if I'm asking a little late. What are your thoughts on Tyler Wells for a DK GPP?
I don't really have any. He's in one of the lineups I just made out of 150. If that became 0, I wouldn't be surprised. He's got a 16.7% strikeout percentage, which is one of the lowest on the slate. 4.68 xFIP. The matchup against the Angels is average-ish. There's a lot of really good pitching on this slate. He just kind of is nowhere near anything I'm interested in other than like accidentally ending up in a lineup or two.
I can't even imagine thinking about him today. I don't mean to be like, I don't mean that in any sort of disrespectful way, but like he might as well not be on this slate.
Right. Yeah. Like you wouldn't notice. Mostly my thoughts on Wells are that I want the Angels bats.
Yeah. I have Wells as my 20th best pitcher of 28 today.
I have him projected 19th. And it's like the value aspect of it is fine. Like he's cheap. He's stretched out. I have him at like 12 DraftKings points, 12.5 DraftKings points. The issue is just that on this slate, there are so many even better values, not to mention guys that have more upside.
How are you feeling about Astros bats? 16th in aggregate ownership, 6th in top stack tool. Feels like a team that's getting a little bit left behind today, just not grabbing the ownership you would expect against Paul Blackburn.
Yeah, I kind of thought that I would get to more of them than I am. Kind of hoping that changes between now and lock. But the things working against them are that, one, Blackburn's not bad as a real life pitcher. He's not good at getting strikeouts. He's not a good DFS pitcher, only striking out about 19% of hitters this year, but a 3.66 xFIP, only allowing 0.72 home runs per 9. It's supposed to be like 70 degrees in Oakland, tough park to hit in, not great hitting weather. All of that's working against Houston, and I don't really care that much because Houston still got so much power and they're not getting ownership. But right now, at least, it's been enough for Houston not really to show up in my lineups. Again, wouldn't be upset if that changed, but right now, just getting to some other teams.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know if you were going to tell me like, oh, this is the sort of biggest stand I'm taking against public ownership. I wouldn't have been shocked to hear that at all.
I wouldn't have either. When I looked at like my aggregate ownership, I kind of had an idea that it was either going to be like I have some crazy high number on Houston or I have like none.
Josh Gillum wants to know if Bassett's in play. Marlins only have 2 lefties in the lineup. He's the 4th most owned pitcher on today and there's only 4 guys that are actually getting ownership. So
yeah, I mean, he's my 3rd highest owned pitcher right now. I feel very confident he will be somewhere in my top 4.
Just buy a hair in play today. I can't imagine you're going to A's bats unless you need really good value.
Yeah, I'm good there.
Okay. MLBDD is the promo code. One big word, all caps, no spaces. I told you guys to use this promo code a couple days ago, and you guys could have had 1 month of Stokastic plus Platinum at 50% off. That deal is gone now. 1 week of Stokastic plus Platinum for 50% off if you use that promo code. Maybe you didn't have the total outlay for a month. This should let you get in at a much cheaper number. Come see what's behind the paywall for the next week. It'll cover you for MMA for tomorrow. It'll cover you for the PGA major that's coming up on Thursday. We're going to have plenty of content for that. You'll be able to do every baseball slate from now until next week. It's really a great time for you guys to get in if you were interested in it, because this promo code covers every sport, everything that we cover. So you see it on the screen right now, MLBDD, 50% off your first week of Stokastic plus Platinum. Check out, look for a link in chat or in the description of this video. 4 games to go. Diamondbacks and Rockies. 4.9 run implied total for the D-backs. 3.9 for the Rockies. Zach Gallen and Chad Kuhl. No ownership coming to Kuhl. Gallen, 15% owned right now. I think he looks good in the middle of it all. Just crazy to see him get ownership. I mean, it's the Rockies, so like it makes sense to me. There's just so many guys that I think should be getting ownership. Gallen is the guy that is.
Yeah, I'm getting about 15%. He looks good to me. He's a good pitcher, good matchup. At this price, he'd be getting a ton of ownership if you didn't have those other 3 guys pulling it down. But for the season, 22.8% strikeout percentage, 3.87 xFIP, facing the Rockies outside of Coors. I like Zach Gallen, and I think the ownership makes sense.
Should Urquidy be more owned? I mean, I guess it doesn't really, like 8% and 15% are not really all that different.
Yeah. I mean, I have Gallen a point ahead of Urquidy.
Okay. Yeah, I have him a little bit ahead as well.
He's just looking at it. I have the only pitchers I have him projected behind are Giolito, Snell, Bassett, and Ashby.
There you go. Chad Kuhl?
No.
All righty. Diamondbacks bats. We haven't talked about like a high level stack in a while. 4th in our top stack tool, 3rd in ownership, and the number 1 value stack today. Alek Thomas, 20% owned at 2,800. We talked about him earlier today. Like, I understand why they look good. The matchup's great, but do we need this savings? What do you want to do with Arizona?
So in tournaments, I don't think I'm getting remotely close to the field just because I don't think you need the savings. I think that it's going to be easy enough to get to other good teams that I want to get to. But they are really cheap. They do have one of the best matchups on the slate facing Kuhl. So I think in cash, they're a little bit more useful. Alek Thomas, I think for sure is in your DraftKings cash lineups at 2,800. I was going to say Carson Kelly, but he's not in the lineup. But certainly, Kendall Marte's not in the lineup either. Okay, so we're losing some of the guys that I thought might be in your cash lineup. David Peralta at 3,400, batting 3rd potentially. Walker or Varsho, I guess potentially, but Alek Thomas for sure, batting 2nd at 2,800. Just a total mispricing.
Congratulations on the big signing for the Wizards.
Who did they get?
Taj Gibson.
Oh, I saw somebody mention that in chat, and I assumed they were joking.
What's Tibbs gonna do?
Yeah, I mean, I'd seen that the Knicks waived him, but I didn't see he had gone to the Wizards. Yeah, Dalton Varsho looks very good.
Sure does. Cash options in the Arizona Diamondbacks lineup. Alek Thomas for sure if you need the salary.
Alek Thomas, I think 100% is in cash on DraftKings.
Yeah, I would expect it as well. I just don't know how much salary that, like, it's just one of those weird days where you just might have way too much to go around and you start upgrading on these guys by default.
Yeah. I mean, the Arizona lineup, like all the guys that I was getting in cash, except for Thomas, are not in the lineup. Kelly's not in there. Kennedy's not in there. those are basically the ones that I was getting other than, oh, Marte's not in there. So obviously I will be recrunching with their actual lineup, and there are still cheap guys to get to. I wouldn't be surprised maybe if Varsho shows up, but the issue there is that like you're getting to Thomas before you're getting to Varsho. And then if you play Varsho, you are automatically, assuming you have Thomas, losing at least one of the Acuna Judge pairing. So that makes it kind of tough from a positional standpoint. But Alec Thomas for sure, I think, will be in there. The middle of the order is viable potentially.
I'm going to hit you with this question that came up in chat because I think the answer will be interesting. Just give like a thoughtful answer. Adam, do your cash opponents not watch you during the day? How do you give up cash lineups and not get beat all the time?
So for one, most people making good cash lineups are very, very, very heavily basing them on projections. And I'm basically just, when I talk about cash, regurgitating projections. Two, I'm mostly just posting head-to-heads, and I haven't been playing even a lot of like double ups and stuff because there's so much overlap. But I'm getting enough action in head-to-heads from a couple of people that I'm assuming they're not watching. Like, if they are, they're not listening, so I don't really care.
Yeah. When it comes to cash, it's not really going to be a big deal. Like, obviously, having the information of what somebody else is doing is important. You're not saying what your cash lineup is even on the show, even if that was the case. Like, it could very easily change with one crunch. One guy swaps out for another, turns into a 2v2. Whatever.
Yeah, that too. I was gonna say most of me talking cash on here is kind of like, for like most guys are just not even, you're not going to have them in cash. If you do, you made a mistake. But for the most part, because lineups are still coming out, I haven't actually built a cash lineup. There's very few guys that I'm like positive I'd be playing in cash. I'm very close to positive I'm playing Alec Thomas. There's a very good chance I'm playing Jose Ramirez. I would almost guarantee I'm playing Snell Giolito. But other than that, it's just kind of like a short list of guys. But
your opinions are not minority opinions. That's the thing.
Right.
Anybody that's playing cash at a high end has the exact same information as saying the same things. They're playing Snell, they're playing Giolito, they're playing Acuna, they're playing who was the other 20-something% outfielder?
Probably Judge.
Yeah, they're playing Judge, they're playing Alec Thomas. Like, these aren't your thoughts on a cash lineup. Those are just the most likely cash plays across every good player that's out there.
Right. Like if somebody needed me to tell them that they were playing Alec Thomas in cash, they're probably going to make a mistake somewhere else. So I'm still going to win.
Yes, agreed. So yeah, I thought that was a really good question because people probably aren't thinking about it like that. But the discussion of cash plays is like the least personal decision you can get to.
Right. Especially in baseball. I mean, basketball, I guess you could make a case where it's just like, it's not going to happen very often, but like maybe somehow I think everybody's just like, 5 minutes off on somebody's projection. So I'm going to end up with them in cash and nobody else is. That, I guess, in theory would be a thing that I didn't want people to know. But one, that's like basically never going to happen because projections are good. And two, baseball, I mean, they give you the lineup. So there's not much guesswork there.
Well, after having a ton of time, now we have none of it. Padres and Giants, 4.1 run implied total for the Pods, 3.4 for the Giants. Blake Snell and Sam Long. Nothing going to Long. No ownership going to the Giants. Blake Snell is 37% owned. It just feels high to me. He's clearly in a good, he's good. I love the price. It just feels slightly too high.
Seems like exactly right to me. I got 37.3% in the crunch I ran at the start of the show. So, I'm fine with it. I'd said this morning that I thought he would be the guy that kind of dropped off for me out of the main three. It turns out that was Ashby by a little bit. Again, I think it's just the fact that his workload is a little bit more up in the air as far as how long his leash is than Snell and Giolito. Snell does walk too many guys. He's got a 4.03 xFIP. So it's not that it's risk-free, but you're still talking about a 28% strikeout percentage and a really, really cheap price tag. So I'm still perfectly fine getting to Snell.
I would love to get 27% Snell and take 10 of that percentage and go to Scooble. Other than that, I don't have anything else to say. I still think Snell looks really good. Do you get to bats here? Padres are 19th. Giants are 23rd in top stack.
No, I'm not getting to bats here. I don't know if I even am at all.
Machado got the 5% for me, so I don't.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, San Diego. I'm getting to San Diego. I have 7% aggregate ownership going to the Padres, so that actually gets me quite a bit above the field. Machado coming in as my third highest owned third baseman right now. Getting some Kim.
Hmm.
Do we have their? Okay, so I obviously crunched before their lineup came out. I was getting some Kim. He's not. Oh no, he's leading off. Never mind. Yeah, so getting some Kim, getting some Machado, getting some Cronenworth. Machado, the main driver there, though.
Anything for the Giants?
Nope.
Mariners and Blue Jays, coin flip game. George Kirby, Ross Stripling. No ownership going to either pitcher. I'd be fine with it, but today doesn't feel like that day. So I don't really advocate for Stripling or Kirby here.
No, me neither. Stripling, I think, is underpriced, but like you said, it just doesn't seem like the day for that. And then for Kirby, I got like 5%. He's a good pitcher. The matchup sucks. He's a little underpriced based on his talent level, but not to the extent that these other guys are. So yeah, he's just showing up in like 5% of lineups. We have him projected for where you go. We have him projected for 2% ownership. So like, yeah, cool. I'm twice the field on George Kirby.
We have the Blue Jays 5th in top stack right now, unowned. Are you getting to Toronto on the opposite side of Kirby?
Getting a little bit, not as much as I thought I might earlier in the day. Got like 3% aggregate ownership, so slightly over the field, I guess, but nothing really standing out from Toronto as far as my exposures. But it is, this is one of those situations, it's like Houston, where the fact that they are right now not one of my highest owned teams shouldn't dissuade anyone from going there. Like, it's a good tournament stack. It's just, there's a lot of good tournament stacks, and it's not one of my highest owned at the moment. But just like with Houston, it's not the best ballpark. It's not the best matchup going up against Kirby, but this is a very high upside offense that is not getting ownership. So if you're looking at it and saying like, oh, I want to play the Blue Jays instead of, for me, I have the Phillies or the Padres or the Red Sox, there's no like real difference between the Blue Jays and the Red Sox. I happen to be on the Red Sox right now. Same kind of thing.
There we go. Anything for the Mariners? They're just worse versions of Blue Jays for me today.
I'm getting quite a bit more Seattle than I am Toronto right now.
Well, at least we found the leak in your system, because that's the same as yesterday. So
yeah. I'll say it, suddenly I'm just apparently jamming Mariners every night. But Julio Rodriguez, 5,900. He's expensive, but still a really high upside play. Getting some Dylan Moore. I'm actually just getting a good amount of Seattle. 5% Crawford, 10% Suarez. Right now, they're one of my higher owned stacks, actually.
All righty. We're going to close it out. Final game. Running a little long. Thank you to the Live Before Law crew for putting up with us. 210 likes, by the way, 770 viewers. Hit that thumbs up if you haven't done it yet. Helps us out a ton. 5-run implied total for the Dodgers. 3.6 for the Cubs. Tyler Anderson, Keegan Thompson. Neither guy getting any ownership. If you got to any shares of Tyler Anderson, I think that's completely reasonable. It's a fantastic strikeout matchup against the Cubs, but looks like Anderson's getting slept on like everybody else at the top.
Yeah, it's just really difficult to get there. There is some strikeout upside here, but you're getting probably an entirely right-handed Cubs lineup. Anderson only has a 20.5% strikeout percentage against righties compared to almost 26% against lefties. He's a good pitcher, but I just have a really difficult time prioritizing getting to him.
Dodgers bats should be pretty easy to get to. 3rd in top stack. 4th in aggregate ownership, but 10% owned across the board. A lot of that going to Betts, Turner, Smith, Muncy. Those guys should all be getting the ownership that they are getting by default. How are you managing the Dodgers right now? Or is that a team you're getting to?
Kind of surprised I wasn't getting more, but I think it sort of makes sense. They're just projected for more ownership than a lot of teams that are pretty similar in terms of top stack percentage. Right now we have them with a 10% aggregate ownership share, 6% chance of being the top stack. You have all these other teams with like a 4% chance of being the top stack getting less than half the ownership of the Dodgers. So I think that they're good plays. But I also, for one, I don't think Keegan Thompson's terrible. If you go back to the start of last season, 205 expected ISO to righties, 22.8% strikeout percentage, 161 expected ISO to lefties, 22.3% strikeout percentage. He's not as good as the Dodgers are, but it's not like he's some total gas can. And it kind of just seems like the Dodgers are probably being pushed up a little bit more than they should here.
Is there anything here for you for the Cubs? 21st in top stack, 18th in ownership.
No, I mean, you got a bunch of right-handed bats against Anderson. So, I mean, that's kind of appealing, but they're one of those teams where I'm probably going to get a little bit more than the field, but not anything crazy.
Favorite stacks?
I mean, I guess right now I'd have to say Yankees, Angels, Red Sox, which again, I wouldn't mind or care if that turned into the Astros or the Blue Jays or something.
Favorite pitchers?
Snell, Giolito, Bassett, Ashby.
That'll do it, everybody. The deeper dive is in the books. 230 likes. I'll take what I can get. Stay here. Don't go anywhere on this stream right now. MLB live before lock. Enjoy your weekend, everybody. Get some sun. Do whatever it is you want to do in this lovely July. We're out of here. Peace.
Beyond just the no or yes run first inning plays. So we won't waste any more of your time. We want to get into it specifically. As you know, we're going to tell you about this BetMGM promo. But first, let's head on over to BetMGM specifically. Go to the baseball tab as we want to target the Mets-Marlins game right away. That's going to be our first play on the board. And as you see, it is highlighted as plus 110. So the very first play that we're going to give you for tonight is, yes, there will be a run in the first inning, Mets-Marlins game at Citi Field, plus 110. Now, no team in baseball scores more first inning runs than the New York Mets at home. All right, so Citi Field clearly kind to the New York Mets when we're talking about any type of early home field advantage. They averaged 9.9. All right, that's insane. 0.9 runs per first inning at home. Even though they failed to register a run in the first last game, they still exploded on the Marlins to the tune of 10-0. And we anticipate the offense, at least the bats, the familiarity of Citi Field to continue tonight. Now, Marlins are a little easier to score against when they're on the road. They give up 0.61 runs per first inning when they're on the road this year. They're starting Pablo Lopez against the Mets. New York's going to counter with Chris Bassett, whose ERA is a little too high for comfort, just over 4. So when you look at what we're dealing with overall, both teams have a legit scoring opportunity and should early in the first inning of this game. So attacking recent trends with the New York Mets, attacking the fact that the Marlins really having good pitching, not great, but 1 or 2 stellar arms this year, still have given up over a half a run per first inning on the road. So despite having some sense of consistency at that position, it hasn't really saved them or limited the amount of runs they give up on the first inning. So just looking at this alone, Mets Marlins, yes, plus 110. Now I want to take you over to Odd Chopper here so you can see exactly how we use this first inning money line tool, right? We want to go to MLB bets. So first, our betting resources, compare MLB odds.
How we doing, everybody? It is the Stokastic MLB Live Before Lock show. If you guys are just joining now because you'd rather watch Eric and I than Josh and Adam, totally understandable. Like the videos, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We've got a big baseball slate up here. We got 14 games. Nearly every team is in action. It actually would be every team, but neither FanDuel nor DraftKings include the 640 game, which is the Rays taking on the Reds. So a lot of games to break down here. But Eric, how are you feeling about the slate?
Feel pretty good about this one. Obviously, doing a betting video the night before, it's like I do all my prep right as soon as lock starts of the slates. Obviously, I won't have those videos on the weekend, so have a little bit of a break, get to just sit back, enjoy, watch some baseball. So I'm always looking forward to that. So
another thing that I think we should announce to the audience: you're not wearing makeup today. How does it feel to just reveal your natural self on camera?
Well, all right. So I'll just give the story. Well, no, hit the like button, because I'll give you the story. But anyway, I've got a huge bag of dog food. So we took my dog to spot just like north of Burbank here, to a spot where he was getting trained up because he's a big dog. He's over 70 pounds now, going to be about 110, 115. So before he got crazy with the leash, We had to go get some training on him, have this really cool lady that worked with him, helped him develop being able to be on the leash. But you have these massive bags of dog food that you carry up and down these stairs. And I was carrying the dog food down the stairs, missed one, bang, directly on my head, all the way down here, got my knee skinned up. It is not a great situation. So love my pup. So it's all worth it.
Fell down the stairs, huh? I mean, could you any more of a cliche story? I fell down the stairs.
I don't know.
Fell up the stairs.
That's the story. So I'm sticking to it.
Eric, you have a big audience here. If you need help, you could just be honest with us. All right, that's good. I'll alert the proper authorities after we're done talking about the baseball slate. Which, by the way, if you actually were in any kind of trouble, like dire need, if something was horribly wrong, I would absolutely say, all right, we'll address this right after we talk about gambling advice and go over the baseball slate, because it's important information.
Hey, don't turn the people off to the show first. We got to have the show,
exactly.
And then we'll help you an hour later after you've already lived in fear.
We've got a job to do. We got to get through this. We got to do it all. And I mean, there's a lot to break down when it comes to this slate. And yeah, oddly, the top pitching options, the ones that are going to be most popular, not the expensive guys today, at least not over on DraftKings. We've got a handful of pitchers in the 7K range that are picking up a bulk of the ownership. Our guy, Aaron Ashby, Blake Snell, Lucas Giolito. Those are the three most popular pitchers over on DK. On FanDuel, same story. Lucas Giolito, Aaron Ashby, Blake Snell, although at least on FanDuel, Giolito and Snell are a little bit more popular. But starting by talking about this slate, and just from a broad sense, how are you going to approach pitching? Are you going to be playing the chalky guys? Are you going to be paying up? Are you going to be going cheaper? What is your overall view on the pitching? And then we'll talk about some of the more specific players.
This is probably, this just feels so different than the last couple of days, because I really do think you can make some case for some pitchers that are just unowned today. Like, we're talking unowned, because it is just a wide open board. I'm looking at the FanDuel board. You have nobody over 25%. Obviously on DK, you're running into the Giolitos, the Blake Snells. Like, they're just really underpriced. But at the same time, there's so many places, especially at the top end. I know the guys tuned in, 15 minutes, the last 15 minutes of the last show, and they were talking about how they're just really not paying up for pitching. And I get it, but like, there's so much upside for certain guys at the top end. I mean, a Zach Wheeler, who's coming in pretty low owned compared to what I think he should be at 10%. I think Chris Bassett, 25%, awesome. You go to Charlie Morton for 500 more, and all of a sudden you're trimming so much ownership. So there are a lot of pitchers that I have a lot of interest in. Even at the bottom, yeah, George Kirby is in the worst spot humanly possible, but should he be a 1% pitcher on just about any slate from now until, he retires? Probably not, unless he goes on like a Dallas Keuchel farewell tour or something.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. It's a big slate. There's a lot of options, and the ownership is pretty concentrated at pitching. But when it comes to the pay-up options, it's just weird the way the pricing works on DK ads of late. And I'll break up the DK and FanDuel a little bit here when we're talking about it, because the pricing is a little bit different. But the expensive pitchers we have on DK aren't really all that expensive. We've got two 10K guys. One of them is Nestor Cortez. The other is Zach Wheeler. Remember when Nestor Cortez was just blindly 30% owned on every single slate, and then the entire league figured out that the guy was nothing but a fraud who was getting by on a weird mustache and some tomfoolery and weird delivery, and It's not working as well anymore. He's getting hit really hard. DraftKings is apparently not picked up on yet because they haven't lowered the price point. But him or Wheeler, are either of them going to be priorities for you? We didn't jump off the Spencer Strider train yesterday, but we didn't think he was worth the 50% ownership. Ultimately, he ended up being worth the 50% ownership against the St. Louis Cardinals yesterday. Nobody was able to touch him. Can Zach Wheeler find similar success against the Cards?
I love Zach Wheeler today. Again, 10%. He's 10%. He's like 14%. I just reran it here on DK. So that's a little bit more, but still, I like St. Louis a lot. I constantly talk about how I'm getting to this team above expectation, but you look at this lineup and you do get a guy like Connor Capel. I don't think 12.5% is going to be his going K rate long-term here, but you get Nolan Gorman, as great as he is, a 30.5% strikeout rate. You get Andrew Gneisser, who's just not anything at the catcher position. Juan Yepez around 23%. Brendan Donovan's been decent enough from the left side. I just didn't understand this line last night. I didn't understand what we were looking at here, why Zach Wheeler wasn't a bigger favorite going up against Adam Wainwright. And, I look at what Philadelphia's done on the other side, Derek Hall being added to it. And I know I'm talking sports betting a little bit here, but it kind of all comes together where I just think Zach Wheeler is being underappreciated in pretty much all formats today. I think he's a lot better pitcher than he's being given credit for. And as much as I do think Blake Snell going up against the Giants, where you probably going to get above average lefties, but still not anything that I'm overly concerned about there. The righties there, we know kind of who they are, but a great ballpark for pitching. You get Giolito in the best spot with the nut matchup against Detroit. But like Zach Wheeler from a pure ability standpoint is better than both of them.
Yeah, I mean, Wheeler's phenomenal. And another thing too, if you look at his numbers this year, which are really good, he got off to a slow start this year. I had concerns about him coming into the season because at the end of last year, he told reporters that if the Phillies had made the playoffs, he didn't even know if he was going to be able to pitch because his arm was so sore from the workload he had last year. And then he starts this year off with really diminished velocity and the results were down a little bit. I was like, well, this could be concerning when it comes to Zach Wheeler. And then you got 5-6 starts in the season. He picked it right back where he left off last year. So his numbers are phenomenal this year, but it's kind of underselling how good he's been just for that reason. I don't know that he's somebody that's worth like 20 or 25% exposure or anything, though, just because despite what Strider did against the Cardinals yesterday, this is a team that's really, really difficult to strike out. So Wheeler's going to be hard for me to prioritize and being a guy that makes it into a massive amount of my lineups. But is he going to be one of your, if not your most roster starting pitcher today?
Who?
Wheeler.
No. Lucas Giolito, but that's kind of like by default where there's no other pitcher that I look at on the board and I say, I'm going to just jam. It's just that I'm not going to be going well over on like everybody jammed Spencer Strider. And I got it. Like I understood from the tag perspective. I thought there were enough other ways to get different on that slate that I didn't have to necessarily go there, played less of him. And yeah, you end up getting a little bit punished, but I think it's going to be Giolito. I thought I was going to get more Ashby than what I am. And we'll get there as well. But for me, I'm going to your guy, Charlie Morton here too. That's the other guy on the top end that I just can't get away from getting to. And it's just such an improved repertoire that we're seeing from him going up against Washington. This Washington team is no good. They're very, very terrible. And sure, they got Nelson Cruz back yesterday. So there's that. But like Charlie Morton, I didn't really buy into some of the stuff that was going on with him a little bit earlier in the season, or I just was kind of terrified of rostering him. We've now seen double-digit strikeouts in 3 of his last 5. He's gone at least 6 in 4 of those. So I'm feeling pretty confident in Charlie Morton at 9,200. If I want to also get up to another guy who's coming in around 10%, why are people not playing him either?
Yeah, and I mean it's just because there's so many options on the slate. Yeah. And there's all the guys that project well for cheap, but I mean, I've been a Charlie Morton guy lately, and it's not even because I think he's one of the best pitchers in baseball or anything like that. And just based on talent level, he's overpriced on most slates. If you're just like, all right, who are the best pitchers? What is his price point? But he's such a better fantasy pitcher than he is real life pitcher because as far as his real life numbers go, 4.34 ERA, 3.93 expected ERA this season. That's not really a top of the rotation starter. It's like somewhere in between a second and third starter, probably close to a third or something like that. But there's so much upside for fantasy purposes because he generates so many strikeouts when he's actually pitching well. 27.3% K rate this year, 28.6% last year. So the decent starts for Charlie Morton from a real life standpoint are excellent for DFS because he gets his outs via strikeout. So I'm with you. I think that's the low owned guy that I like the most here. He's only projected for 2% ownership over on FanDuel, DK at 7% ownership. If I had to only pick one guy to roster above 9K on both FanDuel and DK today, I would be picking Charlie Morton.
I played one lineup on FanDuel. He's the pitcher in it.
I love it. Yeah, I think that makes a whole lot of sense based on the projected ownership. 7% over on DK, and we have him with a 12.5% chance to be one of the top 2 scoring pitchers. FanDuel only projected for 2% ownership. So I'm with you. I think that makes a whole lot of sense. That's the guy for me above 9K. Do you have any other takes on this upper tier of pitcher pricing?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm not admonishing anything that they said on the previous show where it's like, I completely understand that when you get a Giolito sub 8K, when you get a Blake Snell 8K, sub 8K, it opens up the entire board and you don't want to remove certain stacks from the equation on a day like this. You want to get to some of the better teams. You don't want to be playing, these sub 4 total teams that exist on this slate. You don't really need the savings. They open up the entire board for you, but like that's where you do look at the K stuff. And that's where like Nestor Cortez, I'm with you, where we both never really believed in that stuff. He was just the Johnny Cueto of 2022 from the left side. It's just interesting how that kind of came full circle for him. And now he's kind of being exposed. But like Zach Wheeler, and you get Charlie Morton, their strikeout stuff is so good, double digit kind of upside that we have there. And if you land on Chris Bassett, in that mid eights, I don't mind that either with the ownership, but 9K plus Morton, Wheeler, those are the clear cut priorities for me. Not really necessary. I know the field's not getting to Cortez, Gray, and Anderson, but you really shouldn't either.
Yeah, I think we see that the exact same way. So we are in line when it comes to this pricing tier. I want to go to the next tier of pitchers now. I'm not going to get to the chalk quite yet. I want to talk about the guys in the 8K range because actually, Chris Bassett kind of does qualify as chalk. So I'll take that back. He's going to be in this list as well. But when we talk about the 8K guys, there's Zach Gallen against the Rockies. We've got Chris Bassett and then also John Gray. So there's a handful of pitchers that do also have strikeout upside in this pricing range. The one that's most interesting to me, though, here is Chris Bassett. He's projected for 27% ownership on DraftKings. That seems pretty steep to me, but how are you approaching Bassett?
Yeah, I'm a little bit lower, and it's exactly what you said, where I didn't know what that number was going to end up at. I was hoping that in some ways he was going to end up really low owned. Maybe we get there and people bypass it entirely and we get everybody jamming Giolito and Snell, which would not surprise me by any means. And you might get him a little bit lower owned. That's happened a number of times, but our projections are so damn good. We've got Chris Bassett, sitting at that 27% number. I think that's probably going to be the going rate. I'm half the field almost exactly on that. I have 13% in my last build of 150 over on DK. That is specifically not playing anything else over on FanDuel other than that one lineup with Morton. So I get it. He makes sense. He's been, I would say, a really solid pitcher once again this season. His underlying metrics are much better even than his overlying metrics. I mean, he's got a 226 expected batting average, nearly a 26% K percentage. But like, even on the other side of this one, there's Pablo Lopez, and they're grading out pretty similar for me. Not that, obviously one lineup is a lot better than the other, especially, looking at the Miami Marlins lineup without Jazz Chisholm, without Jorge Soler, all those guys that really would cause some damage here. They don't exist, and there's definitely strikeouts to be had, but I think we can get away from 27% of him.
I had a sports betting angle to tie into Chris Bassett. Unfortunately, it doesn't exist anymore because earlier in the day when I recorded my MLB best bets video, what am I? It's like the
sport ball.
I love sports. The Andy Samberg thing from SNL.
Yeah, that's good.
Football, basketball, soccer, golf. So Chris Bassett earlier in the day, over 5.5 strikeouts was plus 120. Now over 5.5 strikeouts, minus 130. That's much more reasonable. So that was one of the things I wanted to bring up as a talking point to Ty and Odd Shopper, who's sponsoring today's show. And the easiest way to look up any kind of bets, free tool to use over at oddshopper.com. But that bet doesn't exist anymore. So I unfortunately can't recommend it. But hopefully if you guys watched my video earlier in the day, you jumped on Chris Bassett before the line moved. And if you're somebody who's totally adverse to risk, you can now get over 5.5 strikeouts and under 5.5 strikeouts for plus money. So not the way that I think is the best way to approach that, but it's something that could happen if you bet the best value bets early.
Just straight out arbitrage bet your own strikeout prop. That'd be pretty sick. Hey,
lock in that profit. Lock in that profit.
Why not?
Don't do it. It's dumb. But I'm just kind of bringing it up. What happens when the lines move there? So Chris Bassett, the matchup against the Marlins. The Marlins offense has gotten worse over the course of the season. They started the season off being surprisingly solid. It's been less so. I think it's something like an 84 WRC plus now over the last month for the Miami Marlins. It's a good spot for Chris Bassett. It's just an ownership concern for me. And then also, we've got Chris Bassett today with a 13% chance to be one of the top 2 scoring pitchers on DraftKings. Aaron Ashby, Blake Snell, Lucas Giolito, these guys all look pretty similar projection-wise, but they're all about $1,000 less expensive. So it's going to be hard for me to prioritize Bassett over those guys, particularly when Bassett's ownership has come up. Do you like any of these other 8K guys as a pivot off of him, or are you just going to be looking to go cheaper?
I think talk to me about Zach Gallen a little bit here too, because he was somebody that I didn't expect to be landing on quite a bit. I mean, he's currently 12% now as well. In this Colorado team, I saw the lineup that came out right before we went on here, and I don't think it had Connor Joe in it. Let me double check. Again, just another guy for him to not have to deal with. Yeah, Connor Joe's out of the lineup. Blackman leading off today, going to Bryant. That's definitely a decrease there for me, not having Connor Joe there for Colorado. He started showing up in crunches for me. I think that he's about appropriately owned, but it was kind of surprising that I got to him at all. Urquidy, you could probably get to against Oakland. I bet you can get to just about anybody against Oakland, but he's not a good enough strikeout guy that I really want to be getting over 7% or say that he's some kind of a clear-cut priority. But I did say Pablo Lopez, and he's 2% owned. It's a very potent Mets offense. There's no question about it, but he's just such a good real-life pitcher. Also a hard hit rate around 36%, a 24.6% K percentage. He's just another dude that, would it surprise me if he went out, put up, 6 innings, 6 strikeouts, something of that nature? And if you have anything happen to Giolito or anything happen to Blake Snell, you're just surpassing so much of the field. So he's another guy that it's not hard to be over 2% in 150. So I'm going to be doing that as well.
Yeah, and by the way, just because some people are bringing it up in the chat, there are a couple games with rain in the forecast. I don't see anything as being massively problematic, though. Nothing that's caused me to take games out of my player pool.
No.
Are you doing anything different?
I don't see any weather.
Yeah,
what are people talking about?
Yeah, I mean, there's some games with a chance of rain, but not anything that's crazy. Like, I mean, I know me not living too far from New York, doing the old window test. It's very dark outside. I think we have a chance of rain today. It's been dark all day, but it doesn't seem like this is something that would cause a game to be canceled. So if anything changes, we'll keep you guys up to date on that. But for now, no real concerns. I want to touch back on Zach Gallen just because I really do like the matchup for him, and he's had a really strong season. 3.4 ERA, 3.57 expected ERA, solid strikeout rate at 22.8%. Just based on ownership, I'd rather play him than Bassett. I know that he's coming off a couple of shaky starts, but one of them was on the road in Colorado. So Coors Field, I think any pitcher in that situation gets a pass. The start before that was against the Padres. He got lit up. That's kind of his only, he has 2 bad starts this season. Overall, I'm not too concerned about Zach Gallen. 1 bad start and 1 mediocre start at Coors Field. He's a little bit underpriced. Home matchup against the Rockies. I actually do think he's a pitcher to get overweight to, and I prefer him to Bassett just based on the ownership between the two.
Okay, I just kind of wanted to talk through that one because I saw Connor Joe didn't show up there. Daza, he's a guy for average. He's just not a good hitter. Hard for him to really do much damage against you. Not fast either. So I am more than happy getting to a little bit more of him. I was getting to around 10%. I might even be bumping that up a little bit further. And Daza is fast. I apologize. I lied. I just wanted to double check his speed as I was saying that because I was like, that didn't seem correct. And then he's batting in the 8 hole now. It doesn't matter.
What were you doing to check his speed?
Just checked his sprint speed on his profile.
Oh, all right. Look,
28th. Yeah. So he runs above average for a major league batter. 28.3 for context. You're looking at like a 30-ish number for Trey Turner. So he's not too far away from it. Middle of the road, I believe the baseline is 27 when you're talking about Savant.
There's one of those things out on my street that tracks cars, the speed. I want to run past one day and just see how fast that could go.
Not fast, Greg. That's the answer.
How many miles per hour do you think he could run?
I mean, what? Okay, so I can't remember what it was, but like when the Olympics come around and you're just like, how am I going to get into track and field? And they're like, he runs as fast as a cheetah taking off or whatever else. When Usain Bolt was there, wasn't like 30 miles per hour like his apex number? Like, wasn't that the top tier for
43?
Like 30 miles per hour is like the fastest a person can go, right?
40,
no, I could go faster.
Was it 40?
Yeah, I could go faster.
Okay.
Yeah. He was
I
a
can't
freak.
go.
That world
Easy.
record will never be broken.
43 miles per hour is how fast you went? Okay. So I'm just thinking about it out loud and talking through it. So 25 over on 30? What? I'm not even sure how to set a line there. I have to think about it.
All right. At some point, we're going to be meeting up in a week. I feel like there's going to be a race at some point now. I'm pretty sure I'm fast.
2 a.m. in Chicago. Hey, does anybody see a speed trap? We need to go.
Sorry,
time to get some racing in.
Oh,
what's even more important than racing? Free money. Do you like free money, Eric?
I do like free money. It's really fun.
Yeah, me too. I like free money. If you guys want free money, you get $200 for free when you sign up at BetMGM right now. All you have to do is sign up using the link in the description box below or sign up using the promo code MLB Bets. And here's what you're going to do. You place a $10 bet on any MLB money line today, and they give you $200. That's it. Do you know what you can buy with $200, Eric?
A lot of things. Also, Tyler, you're such a liar. 27.33 miles per hour is the fastest a human's ever gone. Usain Bolt. You're such a liar. I was right.
If you look up the conversion, mate, that is in kilometers an hour, is what I gave you. So
all right, guys,
it's
way to fuck up the ad read.
You gave me kilometers?
Trying to give away free money to the people, and you're like,
what is this, fucking Canada?
Interrupt this.
Stop it.
It's free money. The people need to know about free money.
Okay.
$200 or 200 Canadian dollars, whatever it is.
Loonies.
You get $200. Buy yourself with $200. You can buy yourself new legs. You get the blades, like the Blade Runner. You run super fast down the street. You kill your wife. You got everything set up. Claim this $200 now for BetMGM. You don't remember the guy with the blades for legs?
I do. South Africa.
Yeah. He killed his wife.
Yeah, he's a bad person. I saw some documentary thing about that. That was messed up. Oh, stop it.
Yeah, that guy.
Guys, use that BetMGM promotion.
He was on the toilet too when he shot her. Isn't that true?
I think it was.
Yeah,
from what I remember.
Oh my God! Talk about the worst way to die. You're a pretty girl and you die in the middle of the night taking a shit.
Yeah,
the guy with blades for legs.
Not great. It's not the way to go.
If you guys want blades for legs, I'm sure they cost somewhere around $200. Get them that $200 when you sign up over at BetMGM using that promo code LBL Bets. All right, back to the rest of the pitching today. And we've got some chalky guys grouped together now. And I want to know who your favorite and least favorite is from the group. Actually, we're gonna do a game here.
Okay.
What's your betting video called again? What are the different things? The lock.
Lindy's leans, likes, and locks. So a lean, don't really have my mind made up. A like, hey, it's a good bet. And a lock, slam it.
All right. So I'm gonna change it up a little bit. Aaron Ashby, Blake Snell, Lucas Giolito. Fuck, marry, kill. What are we doing today?
Oh my God.
I just want to promote your video.
Thanks. I appreciate it in the most roundabout way possible. You're going to marry Lucas Giolito today. You're going to marry him. Detroit, we all know by now, horrendous against right-handed pitching. I hope we know that. And as much as Riley Green, I do value him. I think he's a decent enough hitter long-term, just what his profile is. It's not like he's hitting for some crazy power and just going berserk here at the major league level yet. So I don't really understand that sweep that they had against Cleveland. I don't really understand why they've been better of late, but all I know is it's a very small sample size. The guy's only got a 720 OPS, 254 average, 1 homer, 8 ribbies. Like there's really nothing that I'm seeing out of Riley Green where it's like, oh no, I can't get to Lucas Giolito because of it. I will also say the last 2 starts, I've watched both of them for Lucas Giolito. He's had the same pitching coach forever. They've been talking about it. He was in Southern California growing up, and they talked about it throughout that entire Angels start and then throughout the San Francisco start about some of the adjustments that he was trying to make to get back to what he was doing before he got lit up by Houston and Toronto. But guess what? Lots of people get lit up by Houston and Toronto. And before that, his samples, he's faced Toronto twice, gotten obliterated both times. Then goes to Houston. He had the at Houston start, got obliterated there. He's not exactly had the easiest schedule compared to other guys. You go through some of these starts where he's had easier matchups. Detroit, 19.2 DK points. Minnesota, 20. Angels, 16.7. Chicago, 27.8. That was the beginning of the season. I think it's just been a tough stretch of scheduling for him. So he's the guy I'm marrying. I think the sexy one is Aaron Ashby for me. I'm probably going to kill Blake Snell just because the ownership's there. I get it. He still is walking so many guys north of a 12% walk rate. He's still found a way to limit so much hard contact and limit guys that he still only has a 312 xWOBA. So whatever, but I don't know how I get to his ownership. So there's my order. How about you?
How deep do you think Ashby's going into the game? This is a massive.
I don't know.
That's a massive concern for me. And that's also why I could just be off on this. But I'm a little confused by his ownership just from the standpoint of I don't know that he's going to go especially deep into the game because he's coming off an injury and he has made 1 start since coming off the injured list. He threw 62 pitches. I don't know that he's thrown more than 70 today. And in terms of Blake Snell and Lucas Giolito, and we love Aaron Ashby on this show. We do. We've backed Ashby a whole bunch. So I've been really high on him. My bet is over on strikeouts props a bit. His number 6.5 at sportsbooks today. That feels high to me just because of a pitch count perspective. Is he really going to go from throwing 62 pitches to 90? It's possible. What happened?
Gundacker. I feel like Blake Snell wouldn't care enough about my needs to marry, to be honest. That is gold. He just does not care. Him streaming during the pandemic was hilarious, though. I will give him that. Blake Snell made things interesting, at least.
So for me, that's why I'm marrying Lucas Giolito. I feel like he's the safest of these guys. I know
Agreed.
we just had, who was it in chat? Malukar said, why are you guys picking on the Detroit Tigers? Well, because they suck against right-handed pitching and they strike out a bunch against them. I know the White Sox offense couldn't do shit against the Tigers and Bo Brisky yesterday, but Cease put up a good fantasy game. So that was all we really cared about from that perspective. Yeah. But I think Lucas Giolito should be safe today. I know he's gotten lit up in a number of easy spots this year, but the strikeouts are still
not really in easy spots, though. Not really. Like his spots where he's gotten completely obliterated have been Toronto, Houston, Toronto, and then that's it. Those are the 3 times he's gotten blown up. I will give him a pass on twice against Toronto and Houston.
Yeah, let me pull up Giolito's box score for a second. But anyway, my answers. I am going to marry Lucas Giolito because I feel like he's the safest today, right? I think that's the guy we can feel good about, a little safety, a little security. Fucking Blake Snell, because that's going to be a wild time, right? We just don't know what's going to happen. We could come out the first inning could be a 40 pitch inning, or it could be he strikes out the side on 9 pitches. You don't know. That's the kind of excitement that I like in my life for, a one-off, because I'm not going to go regularly with Blake Snell. I'm not playing him in tough matchups or anything, or in really tough matchups, but this one, kind of interesting for one night. Aaron Ashby, though, we're killing him just because I don't know what his pitch count's going to be.
I forget how ridiculous some of the shows where you host are, because we only get one a week now. Like, it's not fair. Like, we need more of this. We need more of you just taking the reins and just saying the things that you want to say, because they're great. And also Blake Snell, man, he's not the kind of guy you bring home to your family, I don't think.
No, not at all.
Definitely not. You just enjoy him by the riverside.
But a couple shots, a little bit of cocaine, and all of a sudden you got 30 fantasy points on your hands. So that's why I think for tournament purposes, I get why the field is going there. I don't think Ashby is worth totally fading. Like, I wouldn't say if you're building 150 lineups, you don't play Ashby. I'm just going to be prioritizing Snell and Giolito. But I think we've exhausted this topic about as much as possible. So looking at the rest of the pitching options now, we've covered all the chalk. What is an off the board play that you're looking at that we haven't discussed at all yet?
I've not been looking forward to this portion of the program. Can you guess somebody that I have 5% of?
Let's see. 5% of.
I have 5% of somebody that we haven't talked about yet, which is the highest allocation I have of anybody we haven't talked about yet.
Screwball? We like Screwball.
Yeah, I like Screwball, but I guess we didn't talk about Screwball. I have 8% of him, so
okay.
I lied. There it is. He's had a really bad last month and a half, but it's still our boy. That
says a lot about our relationship when I literally know more about you than you do, right there.
Yeah,
I answered the question correctly, and it wasn't.
You did, and it wasn't the right one. We might do a show or two together. That's the answer, but I'll just say it. I have 5% Connor Siebold. And this is the ridiculous, if you want to live dangerously. The guy in AAA this season has been a completely different human being, and he's only had 2 major league starts here. He had a 24.8% K percentage at AAA, 0.99 whip, 196 average he was giving up, and a much larger sample size than 2. What do you mean only 2? That's a Willy Wonka reference for the people who really know, but the Ks have still been there at the big league level for him the last 2 starts, 25% K percentage. It's just been a issue of not being all that good. But the thing is, if you're just trying to get completely different, if I want to get to like some Angels bats, which we'll get to, I mean, Ohtani is 6,500. Trout, he ain't cheap. There's a lot of guys, especially those two is like a 5-2-1 kind of a stack where I want to put it together. I am playing Connor Siebold. It's probably just nuking 5% of lineups, but it is not, I don't think, the craziest thing ever, because it's just a completely different way to build a lineup today. He's terrible, but he's 6,300, and I don't see anything else I can even make a case for down there.
Yeah, it's so if you're just rostering on the fact like, hey, we have the Yankees as being way overowned in our projections.
That's the thing too. It's the most popular stack on the entire board. So if I'm going to be lower on the Yankees, which is kind of what I have to do today, I'm going to play the pitcher. What's the most likely thing that happens if the Yankees fail? Connor Seabold probably pitches pretty decently. And if you look at his AAA results, he's not the absolute, you know what? Now that you even said that, I'm going to give him a boost. I'm going to add a tiny bit here just to get to like, I know I am. But here's the thing. There's reasoning there that I think actually makes sense. And it's not like he's a 15% K percentage guy. I mean, he's around a 25% K percentage guy. So if he survives, if he gets lucky even, I think there's a case to be made for getting there, just saying.
So I get that if you look at some of his minor league numbers at first, they don't look terrible, but there's also been a lot of good luck on his side because he's a 4.45 xFIP in AAA this year and a 5.13 xFIP in AAA last year. The main thing from this year was twofold. Number one, he only has a 3.3% home run to fly ball rate. That's crazy low, something that isn't sustainable. And then same for a 257 BABIP. Now, so far at the big league level, he's only pitched 8 innings. He's an 8.31 ERA. That doesn't really tell us anything. But I do like to lean on the Zips and Steamer projections when we have so little data on a pitcher. Zips has him with a 5.36 ERA as his fair talent level. Steamer has him at 4.98. And every single projection site has him under a 20% K rate. I just think this is a replacement level pitcher. I understand where your head is at, but for a slate of this size, I just don't think it's necessary. I'm going to be underweight to the field on the Yankees, and I could just play other pitchers. Like, I don't think that the Yankees failing means that Connor Seabold has a meaningful fantasy game.
I think it could, though. And that's the huge thing is that, like, it is in play where that's something that could show up. And, you know, I'm seeing people talking about Tyler Wells. I'm seeing people talk about other guys. I mean, this is just a spot where I think 15 or 20 from this bottom end might be something that gets you there. And, you know, if Giolito and Blake Snell don't go for 40 today, you know, because if they go for 40, I'm probably in trouble as is because I'm lower on Blake Snell. I'm going to be right around the field on Lucas Giolito, just kind of, you know, in that 40-ish% kind of range for DK purposes. I'm probably in trouble because there's going to be people who jam the combination of the two, and it's going to be the most popular combination. But, like, I don't see anything else under 7K that gets me access to some of these expensive stacks that I really want to get to that aren't the Yankees. So, like, I think he might be a little bit better, and I do trust his Steamer quite a bit as well. I'm with you, but, like, his AAA results have been so markedly better than what he's had in the bigs through 2 starts that I'm willing to just say, you know what, I'll go down with the ship a little bit. And if he wasn't facing the most popular offense, maybe I would be less interested. But because he is, it's like, well, those two aren't going to show up in the same lineup. So that's good to know.
I think Frank Castle brings up a good point in the YouTube chat. Is it possible that Connor Seabold hit you in the face and said you have to play me in daily fantasy sports tonight? Is that what happened?
J. Rose said Eric is really Sean V. I was going to say that was such a Sean V take. Like, that was, I know this is a bad, like, I know what's happening. And that's why I literally was capping it. Because if I take his triple numbers and just plug AAA numbers and plug them in and then take a little bit off the top, like, he doesn't look all that bad to me. So, like, if he completely annihilates me today, maybe I'm a lever scorant and I never go back to it again. But as it stands, I'm going to have more than 5% Connor Seabold.
All right. And by the way, just to, I don't want to put words in Eric's mouth. There's plenty of other things that go in that mouth. But when it comes to Connor Seabold, I know that you're not advocating for him as being like the best play on the slate. You're just looking for some leverage. Because I know this is going to get taken out of context.
I know. Eric's look. Chat is fantastic today. I love all 750 of you. You guys are just out of your minds.
Any other pitching takes, or should we move over to offenses?
I think we went out on a bang. It's fine. Or a whimper, which is more than likely what's going to happen.
So if you guys want access to all of the tools we have over at Stokastic.com, maybe you're watching this show and you're going, what are the top pitcher odds on a stud like Connor Seabold? Well, here's a way that you get access to that information. You go sign up to a Stokastic Plus Platinum membership. And if you do it using the promo code MLB Live, that is one word, all capital letters, you can get 50% off your first week of a Stokastic Plus Platinum membership. And this is where you get the invaluable information, like should I or should I not roster Connor Seabold, that isn't available anywhere else on the internet. The only way to find out this information is by signing up for our membership, or you could use Logic. It'll also help you determine who the actual best plays are on the slate, which is what I think the real value is here. Top pitchers tool, top stacks tool, ownership projections, player projections, and oh so much more. Stop guessing, start winning. Join Stokastic Plus today. All right, Eric, time for the top stacks. And it seems the public doesn't agree with you on Connor Seabold because let me refresh to make sure this is still the case.
I know. I'm just doing what I'm doing, okay? I'm not saying to come join me. You can make fun of me. But when Connor Seabold puts up 18 against the Yankees tonight, and again, I've been backing the Yankees constantly for, the last however many months, said it's one of the best baseball teams assembled. It's just what it is. I still don't care. I don't care. What's funny now?
So a super chat from my fellow arc is funny. So there's three things that are making me laugh right now. First, we got an ownership update right in between you talking about Connor Seabold and us getting into stacks, and the ownership on the Yankees went up in the interim. That's one thing that's making me laugh. Point two that's making me laugh, the super chat from my fellow arc. Point three is in YouTube chat. Somebody whose YouTube handle is Sean V wrongly told me that Jordan would dong on 624. My wife left me because of Sean V. So there's a lot of things going on right now that are making me laugh. The Yankees, me refreshing the ownership to see that the updates we got right after you finished talking about Connor Seabold and the Yankees ownership went up. That was really funny. But then also my filler arc super chat. Sean V helped me win $10K in a $500 to first place contest. Show some respect, guys. Can you give me 3 prize picks money plays? My filler arc's hilarious. That is such a funny sentence.
That is a really good.
Sean V helped me win $10K in a $500 to first place contest. Eric, I know you have your prize picks content you put up. Do you know off the top of your head 3 prize picks plays you really do like for today that we could use here to help out our guy, my filler arc?
I talked about it on the prize picks video I do over on the Odd Chopper channel, but Zach Wheeler, I love him. I'm going to play him for DFS purposes. I'm going to have over 10%, but should he have a 38.5 fantasy score line? Absolutely not. It's FanDuel scoring, directly applicable. He's been around 34 all day over at Stokastic here for his FanDuel projection. So that's just a little bit high. It's just something you should be shorting at 38.5. It's too big of a number. Even though if you're going to play a lot of him in DFS, maybe don't take that under. So pay attention to kind of what you're doing there. But considering I didn't play him on FanDuel, I don't feel so bad on a 2-pitcher site, still getting exposure and feeling like I'm getting it good there. And then my total home run situation for today, it was kind of a back and forth, but I ended up shorting the Dodgers. Betts, Muncy, Smith, the combination of the 3, they're all north of, Betts went double dong yesterday, 2 solo shots, but he's been decent since he got back. I don't really care. He's plus 285, but his actual odds of hitting a home run less than a 20% expected win percentage over here at Stokastic over on Odd Shopper. So I'm using that in conjunction. Muncy, Smith. I just think Thompson actually limits some hard contact. I do not want to play him for DFS purposes today. Only a 22.4% K percentage, and I don't think he's really that necessary, but it's not that warm out here in LA where I live at today compared to what you would expect on July 8th, sub 35% hard hit. I think the combination of the under of that and the under of 1.5 total bases, which is juiced minus 135 over on DK, that is the way that I am going.
All right. So there you have it, my filler arc. I hope that helps you out there. I don't even know if he was listening at that point or if he just wanted to troll us with his question, but we appreciate the super chat all the same. Another super chat from Oliver Closeoff. Thanks for the fuck Mally.
Maui.
Maui. I started to read ahead and it was so funny that it just threw me off. So Oliver Closeoff, thanks for the FMK. I am raw dogging Tyler Wells tonight. Good for you, my friend. I prefer the Angel side of that game personally.
Yeah, I do too. Tyler Wells, he's limiting hard contact too, but guess what? It won't matter from time to time if you're giving it up there. Also, I didn't know Reed Detmers was going to be the starter coming in last night, and that changes the complexion of this game because I was kind of originally thinking, sprinkle on the Baltimore O's money line, which, again, 1-6, decent enough. 1-5, today's iteration. It looks interesting enough, but good Lord, Reed Detmers is very, very bad at pitching baseballs.
Yeah, he just had did you see his minor league start, by the way? Because, they sent him to the minor leagues because he was struggling at the big leagues.
Mm-hmm. Did he have a temper tantrum like Chris Sale the other night?
No, he pitched 6 innings and struck out 14 hitters, and they immediately called him back up. It doesn't mean anything to me. His strikeout prop opened at 4.5 today, which was crazy high. So I bet the under because 4.5. I think he's made 14 starts this year. He's had 4 or less in 11 of them. So it's been bet down to 3.5. It's not playable anymore. Another reason to check out Odd Shopper early in the day because some of the best bets often move during the day. But here's the most important thing I think we do on this show, Eric. What is the one stack to rule them all? The one stack to find them, the one stack to bring them all in and the darkness to blind them. What are we going with? We can only roster one stack today. Who do we choosing?
I need you hosting more. That's all I know is that you took my bit and you made it better. And that's all you can ever ask from a friend. That's all you can ever ask from a friend. My favorite stack on the day is probably not what you would expect. It's Seattle going up against Ross Stripling. And this is like a single entry type situation here. I don't understand. 4.25 implied run total here. They're going to be less than 1% owned. I'm not playing a lot of single entry stuff here today, but it's just a stack that I'm 6x the field on today. I had a bad Seabold take. I might as well have a bad stack take. So there you go. The Yankees, Arizona, and Atlanta are so damn popular. And so I'm just literally playing so many of these other stacks. I'm getting to Seattle. I'm getting to the Cubby. Well, not too much of the Cubbies. I apologize. Boston against Nestor Cortez. Really don't care about the sticker shock that exists there. I do like Baltimore. And the Angels are probably number 2 for me. I just think you're looking at Ohtani and those guys. That's the only reason I'm trying to do some of the dumpster diving. But like legitimately, the upside that exists there, it's nice, hot, sticky in Baltimore. It has been all week here. Winds blowing out to left. So ballpark dimensions be damned here. I think that the top of that order is just undervalued today.
Yeah, and I also find it curious because we've seen it's kind of hard to know what we take seriously or don't take seriously from the YouTube chat, but it does seem like there's a decent amount of people that are on Tyler Wells. I wonder if he's going to have some ownership today. Wells doesn't generate strikeouts. He doesn't generate ground balls either. So you got this pitcher who gives up a lot of fly balls, puts the ball in play a lot because he doesn't really generate much ground balls, like I was saying. So if the temperatures are going to be hot, the ball's getting put in play. The ball's getting put in play in the air. The Angels are a very high variance team. There's a lot of strikeouts to be had in that lineup. So I understand why people might look at Tyler Wells from that standpoint. Like the Angels have been a favorable team to pick on. But still, I mean, Jared Walsh plus 650 to homer today. I think that makes sense. Shohei Ohtani plus 450 to homer today. I think that makes sense as well. There's power upside in the Angels lineup. I also like them as a contrarian stack. Not my number one, though. My number one for the day is going to be the Houston Astros.
Okay.
I don't buy into Paul Blackburn this year. We've got years of him not being good at all at the big league level, and he's pitched serviceably this year. He's had some good luck in his favor as well. But for me, I think that he's a guy that's probably more like the guy who's pitched poorly for the last 5 years than the guy who's pitched decently this year. And the Astros, to me, are the best offense on the slate in the best matchup that are picking up the least amount of ownership. Does that follow? Do you know what I mean?
Sounds fantastic to me. It's the same thing. It's like I'm looking at these West Coast games, and it's like Houston has a 4.3 implied run total. Seattle has a 4.25 implied run total. But when you look at it overall on this entire slate, there are some teams that don't have that much of a difference. I mean, Atlanta, much different. I'm just hoping that they don't go out and smash. The Yankees, much different. I'm hoping they don't smash. But otherwise, you can just play all the guys that you want to get to. Ty France is back. You have Julio Rodriguez there, who's been, the AL Rookie of the Year because he sure wouldn't win it over Strider in the NL. A lot of opportunity. Suarez, not Haggerty, but Dylan Moore batting 7th here has a decent enough pop. Like, there's just some spots to get different on this slate that I just think are going way undervalued. And so I'm just taking a scattershot approach. Houston, easy team to get over the field on. Alvarez, Tucker, constantly going to be one of my favorite 2 one-offs individually to get to on any given slate, especially on a day like today against a lefty. Also, the wind is blowing like almost 15 miles an hour to center as I'm looking at it. I know that it's made to suppress a little bit of that wind, but that's enough wind that's being generated that I definitely think it is still a bump up for home runs.
Yeah, and then something else that could help us a little bit here is the Astros lineup was really late coming out. It just dropped. There's no Pena in the lineup, which was pretty much expected because he's in the health and safety protocols. I don't remember whether he tested positive for COVID or was a close contact, but the lineup came out late. Yuli Gurriel's been hurt, and now he's back in the lineup, and I assume people aren't going to play him. He's also been kind of bad this year, but he's going to be a guy who's going to be something like 1% owned. Overall, I think this team is not going to be popular, and for a big slate, the ownership is really concentrated today. So we'll talk about the chalky stacks, but first, super chat from Jorge Giacome over here. Your favorite question for DK GPP? Best stack for single entry? I went with the Astros. Just to reiterate, what is yours, Eric?
Seattle.
Best pitcher So I like Charlie Morton a whole bunch for single entry today. The safest pitcher overall, I think, is Giolito. The contrarian pitcher is Morton, just because of all those guys on the high end that have upside. He's the one that I think is underpriced, that's picking up the least amount of ownership. And then the team to stay away from, for your life from this slate. So well, that's tough to say because based on ownership, I don't want to play the Yankees. But if my life was on the line, I'm not fading the Yankees in this spot against Connor Seabold. Let's see.
I feel as though I'm going to get somebody on Twitter or whatever else. I ended up with 6% Connor Seabold. I just want to say that before, everybody's like, you're an idiot. Like less than 10% of my allocation today has this guy in play. And I'm still liking my line of thinking. So I'm not taking it back. I refuse to back down from it, but I'm going to be underweight to Yankees. There's really nothing I can do about it.
So there's a handful of offenses to be underweight to, and these are the ones that to me are just, and it's also based on the tools we have on the site, but the Yankees, the Braves, the Dodgers, the Diamondbacks, those are the 4 offenses that are picking up all of the ownership today. Almost everybody's stacking those 4 teams, and every other offense is contrarian. So I think if you're playing anybody other than those 4 teams, you're in pretty good shape from an ownership perspective. The one that I think is the least deserving amount of ownership is the Arizona Diamondbacks picking up 13.5% ownership against Chad Kuhl. Chad Kuhl's been kind of decent this year, and the Diamondbacks just don't have a very good offense. So I look at the Diamondbacks as being the team that if you absolutely had to fade one of these high-owned offenses, the Diamondbacks is the one that I feel most comfortable fading.
Agreed.
And then what are you going to be doing with the other stacks? Yankees, Braves, Dodgers. These are also 3 very popular offenses and 3 very negatively leveraged teams. So for GPP purposes, are you going to use them as one-offs? Are you going to be making stacks them but less than the field? What are you going to do? They're all negatively leveraged.
Yeah, so FanDuel, I played my one lineup over there. I have Charlie Morton, who's completely unowned. So I do have 4 Yankees that go together in that one. I'm playing that and like all the single entry stuff over there. But then on DK, where I'm just playing a bunch of lineups, I don't know how you get close to this. Like, I don't know how you get close to the Yankees ownership. And again, I've been ringing the bell for them constantly, but I'm not going to play a 27% Aaron Judge. I'm just not going to play a 20% Josh Donaldson or Gleyber Torres. I will take the entire board because here's the thing. There's a slate where they put up 7 runs, 8 runs, and with 14 games and multiple other spots, if you're playing 150 and you just get away from them and it's not some of those main guys that do the damage, or it's not a double dong from Judge kind of a situation, you are bypassing so much of the field on this kind of a slate. And so somebody said earlier in chat too, where it's like, scattershot means play anyone. No, it means not playing the chalk. It means getting away from the ownership in Atlanta and New York. Because if you take them off the board, if you take Arizona off the board, that's almost 50% of the stacks that are in play today that you're looking at getting away from. And you have how many other teams? 25 other teams to pick your favorites from. It's not even that like Seattle, it's like you say my favorite, but it's like one of 15 other favorites to get to that aren't those other stacks.
Yeah. And if you're playing 150 lineups today, the Diamondbacks, I don't think warrant really any consideration at 13.5% ownership. I think that's a team you could just write off entirely. But then teams like the Dodgers, the Braves, the Yankees, I wouldn't call them 0% plays. They're teams to be well underweight to the field too, though. And then every other team, you kind of by default end up being somewhat overweight to. Because all these other teams, 1% ownership to the Blue Jays, 1% ownership to the Astros. Talked about liking the Angels a little bit, 2% ownership. I just think all of these teams warrant 4 to 5% exposure. There's not any one team that I'm stacking like 15 or 20% of, but you just kind of mix and match some of these lower owned offenses and you end up with a handful of them that you're overweight to. And that's my favorite way to approach this slate.
Love it. We are on the same page today.
So then just something else to talk about, I think, before we close this off here. Which offenses outside of what we've talked about, is there anything else you're really prioritizing in terms of stacks?
Yeah, I still think there's pieces of Atlanta you can get to on the back half of that lineup, but now they're starting to come along. I just refreshed and they're starting to come up here too. I'm uploading my final run of everything here. I think Milwaukee is all right to get to as well. That's one team I didn't bring up. Brubaker, I kind of like more than the field, but around a 4.3 implied run total that we're looking at here from Milwaukee. And you just look at this lefty power that they have in play. Rowdy Tellez has been awesome this year. He's finally priced up to a place where people aren't going to click on him, 5,100. Yelich. And then you get Adames back in this lineup. Urias, who's been good, for quite a while as well. Keston Hiura, he strikes out a bunch, but guess what? He's 2,700 and has a ton of pop still, a 238 ISO. Not many 8-hole hitters that you're going to see that shows up in the lineup. Even Jace Peterson in the 9-hole. It's just a team 1 through 9 that you can just do whatever you want. Not that you'd have to think about stacking them up a certain way on a 14-game slate when they're unowned, but I think there's some really unexpressed upside at home for them.
Yep, I think that's totally sensible. Let me see are you looking to stack against any of the chalky pitchers just for leverage purposes? Because I've seen some people in the chat talk about wanting to play the Pirates after Ashby struggled against them in the last start. We do have a bunch of ownership going to Blake Snell, Lucas Giolito, and Aaron Ashby. Do you like stacking any of the offenses against them for leverage purposes?
Not really. If you made me pick one of them, you're going to stack against Ashby, but I don't even think that that's really remotely viable. That lineup that they put out, Kevin Newman back in our lives, that's not somebody I needed to worry about ever again. You could get to some Michael Chavis. He's 2,200 in the 3-hole, but why? I don't really see a point.
Yeah, and so if I had to pick one of them, it would be the Giants, but I always have this issue with the Giants, which is, oh, cool. If they hit Blake Snell hard and he comes out after 3 innings, a right-handed pitcher's coming in and all of the Giants' righties are coming out. So it's such a pain in the ass to stack them. So I don't even view that really as being a viable way. So if I had to pick one like you, I would side with Pittsburgh, but I don't even think that's all that appealing looking here. So there's nothing that I really like from a contrarian stack perspective. The Tigers, they're picking up 2% ownership. We have them project with a 2% chance to be the top scoring team. So even the Tigers do look about appropriately owned. Do you have any other thoughts you want on this slate before we close it off? Wilson
Contreras not in the lineup. I was expecting to get to a little of him against Tyler Anderson. Just a catching option nobody gets to, and he's always one of the top guys in Vegas to hit a home run, or at the book, should I say. Vegas is kind of ill-informed to say that at this point, but the books definitely have always had Wilson Contreras up there. And so even against a guy in Tyler Anderson who's just learned to limit soft contact, I thought he was a really good contrarian catching option, not in the lineup. So just write off everything there. But this is just a great slate for tournaments. Don't be afraid to get away from some of this chalk, because there are so many other places where you could unexpectedly run into 8, 9, 10 runs. You're going to need a lot of points on this kind of a slate. And so just get to some of the better offenses. There's really no point in trying to get to some of these super cheap spots, even, positive leverage. God forbid the Yankees go nuts today. God forbid Connor Siebold gets negative fantasy points, because I'll never hear the end of it. But best of luck to you all tonight.
Yeah, and that is the most likely outcome, but such is the way of baseball. So I'm about to go find out if I have a toilet in my bathroom now, having some work done, which is an ongoing situation always at my house. But interested to see if I have a toilet or just a hole to poop in for tonight. It's going to be an interesting situation. Guys, thank you very much for watching. Like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Good luck and have a great weekend.